Part 39. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 382. Big Engineering Tower. 63 floors. Living area. In Adeng's office. The great engineer Adeng was dressed neatly. There were no secretaries or female students inside, and he was making black tea happily. Abruptly. Why has this name been cut out? Cough cough cough. Adeng was so frightened that he spat out the sip of tea he had just taken. I almost choked to death. After coughing for a long time, Adeng turned his head in shock and looked at Yilin, the explosion student who had run up behind him at some point. His eyes widened with an expression as if he had seen an unscientific being. You, when did you come in? Just. But I obviously locked the door. You didn't lock it? But I obviously. Yilin sighed. I think you don't want to see the news that Grand Engineer Adeng suffers from Alzheimer's disease and is seriously brain dead spread throughout the entire College of Engineers within an hour, right? Oh, I remember, I forgot to lock the door. Adeng looked at the door not far away that had never been opened and said against his will. Yilin did not continue to dwell on such details. She slowly walked around in a circle and walked to Adeng, stuck between Adeng and door. This is the only door out of this office. There is also a hidden exit under the crystal ornament on the right. Yilin knew it very well and blocked all routes to prevent Adeng from escaping without respecting martial ethics. Snapped. Yilin slapped the worn-out history of the world with few paragraphs missing on the table, smiled kindly, and repeated the question that Adeng had not heard clearly not long ago. This time, Yilin's tone was very polite. Excuse me, my respected mentor, why has this name been cut out? Adeng wiped the tea from the corner of his mouth. He looked down. After seeing the book in Yilin's hand clearly, her brows twitched and she whispered, it turns out this book is on the 54th floor. I mean, why are you suddenly interested in world history? Yilin shook her head, stared into the eyes of the great engineer Adeng, and said slowly, I'm not very interested in history. What I'm interested in is that there are two words on it that I didn't have time to dig out. The evil god. Adeng was stunned and fell silent. A few seconds later, Adeng wiped the sweat from his forehead and said to himself, it turns out that I didn't clean it thoroughly. Yilin. Hey Adeng suddenly winked and laughed, stretched out his hand to steal the book away from the table, and said at the same time, actually, this book is too old, there is nothing to say, how about we? Yilin did not stop Adeng from grabbing the book. Instead, she narrowed her eyes and showed a kind smile. If the dean knew that you secretly looked at the bunny girl photo. If the vice dean's wife knew that you often peeked at the tight buttocks of female students in engineering clothes in the yard during the day. What the hell? Adeng was immediately angry and stood up, slapping the table. His beards were trembling with anger, and his voice trembled like waves. You, how dare you spy on me? Where can I look at my bag? Look, are you looking at your butt? I'm looking at your legs. Yilin sighed again. You can't even get the dean's wife. Snapped. Adeng held Yilin's hand tightly. His movements were fast and his handshake was tight, just like a lover who would never leave her for eternity. Allow me to explain in detail. Adeng was helpless. I had no choice but to start the class again for the explosion students who had been avoiding them for many days. This section is world history. He subconsciously touched his face. It's just healing there. In this class, there is no circuit practice. It should, maybe, there will be no more accidents. Adeng drew a circle on the blackboard. A string of text was written inside the circle. Uranus. Although I have always made you believe in science, you should know that there are gods in this world. Yilin raised her hand and answered, Uranus. The answer is correct, Aiden praised, and while drawing 7 more dots in the circle, he explained, At the beginning of the creation of the world, the god Uranus used 7 giant beasts to rise above the clouds. Created this world. These 7 giant beasts are Gaia, Aiolos, Boros, Pagos, Aurora, and Poseidon. Yilin kindly reminded, "Teacher, you only mentioned 6 giant beasts." Adeng suddenly fell silent. The dean's wife. Ahem, forget it, there's actually nothing to hide. The 7th titan is the 2 words that I didn't have time to dig out in the history of the world. It represents the extreme darkness of the world, the evil god. The moment he said those 2 words, Adeng looked around subconsciously, not knowing what he was looking at. Why did you dig it out? Because, Adeng saw that nothing special happened after he said those 2 words. He secretly breathed a sigh of relief and continued, 2,000 years ago, in 1333, legend has it that there was a war of gods in the world. The 7th giant beast was dissatisfied with the rule of the world by the god Uranus and launched a war against the gods. The specific circumstances of that battle have been lost in history. But the only thing we can know is that before the war of gods took place, there were no monsters in the world, but the blood of the 7th giant beast was scattered all over the world. Everywhere, they turned into various monsters. Yilin lowered his head to think and whispered to himself, so the final boss is set like this. Adeng didn't hear clearly, what did you say? No, I said that's how it is. Yilin swiped her finger down, opened the panel, stared at the current target of the main mission, and continued to extract information about the main mission from Adeng. Then this awesome guy, now where is the burning giant beast? Gone. Yilin was startled. What? The boss is gone? Then who should I swipe? Are you gone? Adeng glared at the explosive student Yilin, carefully sorted out the subject, predicate, and object of the entire sentence, and said it again, the 7th giant beast has fallen. After this class, Yilin asked over and over again, but Lao Den would not change his confession even to the death. Yilin even threatened to build 108 large amplification loops in the corridors of each floor to compile all of Adeng's secrets into a song and sing it 100 times. But Adeng said directly, this is the truth, you kill me. This shabby answer made Yilin undecided whether she really wanted this poor old man to die socially. It's not easy to fall in love at dusk. What a pure and flawless spiritual companion. In fact, Lao Den was just secretly chatting with the dean's wife. Yilin thought for a while and decided to let Adeng go for the time being. After all, Yilin still has a lot of knowledge and needs to find answers from Adeng. Is the boss really dead in the end? Wait a minute. Yilin opened the task panel again. The content of the main quest remains unchanged. In other words, the information he has obtained so far is not enough to complete the current task. Current mission goal, find more clues about the evil god. Yilin rubbed his eyebrows depressedly. More clues. System, please explain the mission more clearly. How many clues can be found to complete the mission? Wouldn't it be far-fetched to continue like this? Although Yilin is enjoying this game now. It's not unacceptable that I can't leave here for a while. But Yilin has not forgotten that he still doesn't know what kind of condition his body is in reality. In case the energy of the life-sustaining cabin is insufficient. What if there is a power outage in reality? Or maybe some natural or man-made disaster happened in his real home. Then isn't he cool? Returning to the real world is the only main mission Yilin urgently needs to complete. Knowing that time was tight, Yilin compressed her rest time and squeezed out as much free time as possible. She spent time in the library on the 54th floor, reading various books on crystal textology and the key points of various crystal textology examinations. Difficult points and test points are deeply remembered in my mind. It doesn't matter if you don't fully understand it yet. He believes that in practical application, as long as the knowledge is firmly remembered, everything will be integrated quickly. Yilin sat on the bare floor of the library. The floors were spotless. Yulin stretched out a finger and while thinking, she subconsciously drew on the floor, simulating the construction of circuits for various functions. In an instant, Yulin recalled that standing at the top of the Holy See branch in Port Isidore, in the center of the 7 huge white crystals, he had witnessed with his own eyes the entire process of the mysterious and complex circuit from starting to stopping. At that time, Yulin read it and found it somewhat interesting. After systematically studying crystal pattern, when she recalled the circuit, she had different thoughts. Strange, that loop seems to be familiar in many parts, but when connected together, I have no idea how it works. Just using that loop can create a defensive shield out of thin air that can cover a large port city. If I read it correctly, that circuit is composed of 7 main cores, 56 sub-cores, and countless nodes and patterns. Normally speaking, just 7 the main core and 56 sub-cores cannot fully provide the energy required for the defensive shield. Whole. As if an idea flashed in Yulin's mind, she chewed on these 2 words carefully. Yes. That circuit is incomplete. Yulin always feels like something is wrong. In crystal texture, the most fundamental rules for constructing circuits are the tightness and integrity of the circuit. In an incomplete circuit, crystal energy cannot flow. By the way, it is like electricity, which does not constitute a closed circuit cannot generate current. Although crystal grain science is a black technology in the game world, it should have a similar principle. Wait, what is this? Yulin was originally sitting on the floor. Every smooth tile on the ground is engraved with some decorative patterns. This is... Yulin's face froze, and he carefully pushed open several nearby bookshelves. After clearing a clear space, he carefully examined the texture of the floor tiles. I remember that the map of Port Isidore seemed to be. Yulin closed her eyes. Not long ago, because of the convenience of movement, Yulin took out the map of Isidore Port and memorized it carefully. Yulin sat alone in the library. There is no one else here but him. Yulin remained motionless, like a sculpture. If it weren't for the fact that Yulin's chest was still rising and falling with a certain fixed rhythm, maybe someone might have accidentally broken into the library on the 54th floor at this time and mistakenly thought that this legendary exploder who blew up several large engineering towers was, student died suddenly in the library due to mental and physical exhaustion. I don't know how much time passed. Yulin suddenly opened her eyes and smiled. I see. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 383. Regarding crystal patterns, Adeng must have hidden some very important knowledge. Why? Is it a secret that is not to be told outside? Yulin passed through the long and narrow corridor, took the black tech crystal-powered elevator, and went straight up. On the way, Yulin thought over and over again about the conclusions he had come up with, but more doubts arose. Is it because the reputation value is not enough? Yulin moved her index finger down and opened the panel. Ever since she became a student engineer, passed various courses and examinations, and was promoted to intermediate engineer, Yulin's Grand Engineering College reputation has been stuck at friendly, 0/6000, and has never made any progress. In fact, it is normal for there to be no progress. He's blown up the laboratory so many times, it's considered good if he doesn't lose his reputation. Soon. Yulin once again found the great engineer Adeng. Yulin always feels that Adeng's full name is very difficult to pronounce, and Adeng is more easy to pronounce. I said Adeng. Yulin got straight to the point. What? Adeng originally thought that Yulin came to him to cause some trouble. He was about to dodge, but before he could, he was unfortunately caught by Yulin. But when Yulin said what she meant, Adeng's eyes suddenly widened. You said you were going to solve the crystal mine crisis. Adeng's reaction was somewhat beyond Yulin's expectations. You mean, I shouldn't go? Ah. No, go. You must go. Go quickly. Go. Aden was so excited that he almost cried. He thought that Yulin was thinking about how to cause sabotage every day, and had long forgotten about this matter, which was related to the life and death of the University of Engineering. Yulin looked calm and nodded, "That's all right, I'm just telling you." "My dear student," Aden suddenly remembered something and cautiously tried, "You don't have any other conditions?" "Conditions?" Yulin was stunned for a moment, then pointed at her face seriously, "My respected mentor, do you think I am such a shameless person?" Aden hesitated for a long time. "In the end, I still didn't say what was in my heart." "My dear student, you must be careful. You must come back safely. The University of Engineering cannot live without you." Aden dressed neatly and took Yulin all the way to the entrance of the University of Engineering and said goodbye with tears. By the way, a series of flags were inserted on Yulin. Yulin hurried away to avoid Aden saying more unlucky words. Aden, the great engineer, wanted to drive Yulin to his destination personally before leaving. But as soon as Aden said these words, Yulin walked faster. This left Aden standing at the door of the University of Engineering, looking confused and confused. When did this student become so respectful to the old driver? Ah, that's great. Aden instantly felt that his earnest teachings had yielded results, and he walked arrogantly along the path of the college and returned to the large engineering tower. Yulin left the University of Engineering and quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Aden is self-aware. This important side mission is already an SS-level difficult mission. If Aden is allowed to drive, the difficulty level will easily rise to SSS level. Yulin stood for a while not far from the University of Engineering. Wang Tiandi swung his little tail and followed. Before setting off, Yulin sent a message to Emperor Wang Tian, and the dog followed. Huh. Yulin suddenly discovered that the dog's smile was very arrogant and arrogant. Take another closer look. There was actually a red lip mark on Guz's face. Yulin instantly understood what the dog had been busy with these days. Do you still remember that big she-wolf in the moonlight forest beside Town? Yulin sighed softly. In an instant, Wang Tiandi's sultry smile froze on the dog's face. Yulin was walking on a busy street with one person and one dog. As far as he could see, the entire city seemed to fall within the scope of the Grand Engineering College. Almost everyone has the title of engineer on their head. In the city, there are many high-rise buildings. The air routes are crisscrossed, and the flying boards shuttle quickly and orderly. On the streets, there are many strange things. Like vending machines, human massage machines, red, green, yellow, blue, orange and purple street lights, routes in the sky. This is a strange city. But Yulin couldn't feel any disobedience. If you ignore the light of those crystals and the various circuits used in life, this place will look like a modern metropolis. As Yulin walked inside, she suddenly had the illusion of returning to the real world. Although Yulin has no memory of reality, she feels that nothing can go wrong. The style of this game is getting weirder and weirder. Yulin was suddenly curious about the weird and magnificent customs on the backs of other giant beasts. Come to think of it, if I were not trapped in this game world and couldn't get out, I would travel around. Walking around the 6 giant beasts, it was also very interesting to look at the scenes on the backs of different giant beasts. This game is really interesting. Yulin quickened her pace, but couldn't help but laugh. With the title of intermediate engineer, Yulin enjoyed all kinds of admiring looks from all around. A mid-level engineer with high authority in the city. All major stores are offering ultra-low discounts of 20% off. But Yulin has always been used to having sex for free, so naturally she doesn't like this discount. But in order to avoid losing the reputation of the friendly engineer college, which she had finally gained, Yulin honestly spent gold coins to purchase a batch of daily necessities. Speaking of which, the bonus attributes of this intermediate great engineer suit are a bit weird. Hand speed add 3%. Hand speed add 5%. Hand speed add 7%. What kind of hand speed can be added to a nice engineer's robe? Yilin was speechless about the properties of this equipment. But the weird attribute of hand speed is not useless. At the very least, Yilin's speed at drawing lines became much faster after wearing this set of equipment. After 1 hour, Yilin walked out of the city. Yilin held up the map she bought from the grocery store and looked at the route marked on the map while memorizing it. The maps sold in the Aurora store are much more detailed than those sold on Gaia the Titan. At the very least, there are fewer foggy areas on the map. Follow the northwest, pass the Path of Sorrow, and cross the Mist Mountains to reach the abandoned crystal mine. Huh? The location of the Mist Mountains is marked with an X? What does it mean? Treasure. It's not so blatantly marked on a 100G map, right? Soon after, Yilin arrived at the Path of Sorrow with Emperor Wang Tian with doubts and expectations. The city of the University of Engineering is surrounded by lush vegetation. But after arriving at the Path of Sorrow, the land turned gray. There were many gray prism-like barbs growing on the roadside. There were not even a weed, and there was an air of desolation and dilapidation everywhere. The dead branches with all the dead leaves scattered crookedly on both sides of the path. From a distance, it looks like a ferocious tree monster. If it weren't for the red names and grades appearing on these dead wood, which looked weird like a war-damaged garden design, Yilin might have tried stabbing it with a knife. The gray prisms on the roadside caught Yilin's attention. In fact, the road is covered with this stuff and it's really hard not to pay attention. Yilin walked to the side of the path, squatted down, and looked at the gray prism barbs growing out of the soil. These barbs resemble a piece of grass, but the surface of the barbs is sharp and angular, dull, and is clearly a solid substance. Wait, is this a crystal? After Yilin looked at it carefully, a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. Wrong. Yilin quickly shook her head. No crystal energy can be felt at all on these crystal-like barbs. Yilin is now a serious engineer, and he can still tell the difference easily. This is a depleted crystal. Yilin casually took out the question-mark divine sword, shaped it into a pair of daggers, and lightly struck the gray barbs. The knocking force is not very strong. Su. The gray barb that Yilin poked instantly turned into powder all over the ground. Yilin stood up silently and walked forward. There was dead silence. Chi. Deep in the path, the strange sounds of monsters occasionally came out, breaking the silence. Ka. With every step Yilin took, she crushed many gray barbs, leaving gray powder on the ground behind her. Here, it's like a dead land. There is no anger whatsoever. Yilin raised her head. Even the usually clear sky seemed to be covered with a layer of gray haze, without any clouds in sight. As far as Yilin could see, the scenery in front of her and the world around her seemed to be crying silently, like an extremely sad pantomime without a single line. But the atmosphere was enough to make people feel depressed, and sadness could not help but rise in their hearts. So this is the Path of Sorrow. Yilin suddenly understood the origin of this land and its name. Walking some distance, not far from Yilin, the mobs in the leveling area finally appeared. Bouncer. LV39. Children at level 39 are still within the range that Yilin can accept. Yilin spent more than a month learning scientific knowledge in the Great Engineer College, and her level was just as high as level 36 because she completed the current goal of the main mission. There is a certain gap between the monsters in this leveling area. But this difference should be nothing to Yilin. He is a man who will be mistaken for cheating by his teammates if he takes action with all his strength. The monster named Bouncer is cute, round, and black. On the sphere, there are two smart eyes and an exaggerated smiling face, painted in a cartoon style. Anyway, the style of this game is weird and unpredictable. Yilin got used to it and didn't bother to complain. Before entering the battle, Yilin casually released the two mother spirits, Nai Hongxiu and Bai Xiaoai, for some air. Oh! Your skin looks very healthy today. By the way, Yilin changed another method and took the time to brush up the bond value of the divine sword. Bai Xiaoai snorted and curled her lips, nonsense. Nai Hongxiu turned her head away, with white hair and bare feet, floating in the void with a cold expression. It seems, as if, not happy about it at all. The bond value of the divine sword Bai Xiaoai is at 2. The bond value of the divine sword Nai Hongxiu is at 3. Woman, your name is integrity in speech and body. Yilin had already mastered the trick of increasing the bond value and smiled without saying a word. Guza smiled evilly, took out a brand new fighting claw from the factory, equipped it, sharpened it, and was about to attack. Yilin is faster than Guza. With a movement of his body, he turned into a shadow and quietly came behind the bouncy monster. Following like a shadow. Shadow kill. Poison quenching dagger. 2 sword style. Concentrate. Venom assassination. Breath work. Shadow shattering blow. Before knowing the characteristics of the bouncing monster, Yilin had no intention of holding back. After all, he was killing monsters by leapfrogging, so it was better to be safe. So Yilin directly chose the most complete combo, turning 8 combos into one move and striking out suddenly. Huh! When Yilin got close to the back of the bouncing monster, she realized that the shape of this cute monster looked familiar and unique. On the forehead, there is a thick hair. As Yilin got closer, she realized that the black and slightly curly hair was very conspicuous. Yilin's combos are very skillful. So proficient that it's almost like muscle memory. Before Yilin had time to think about why there was a curly hair on the monster's head, this knife that had been tempered for many years suddenly pierced the back of the monster's back. -684. A 3-digit number suddenly popped up from above bouncing monster's head. Originally this was a happy thing to hear. Until... hiss. The curly hair on bouncy monster's forehead quickly caught fire and burned. This is a bomb. Boom. Far away. The heat wave of the explosion blew all the dog hair that Wang Tiandi had just smoothed to the back of his head. Emperor Wang Tian's eyes widened. In the heat wave, the dog's hair was messy and its face was confused. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, Bai Yi Shueshi. Chapter 384. Boom. A mini mushroom cloud suddenly rose. The billowing heat wave spread, and Wang Tiandi, who was happily eating melon not far away, was so frightened that his buttocks jumped up as if he had developed hemorrhoids. Ah, this? Explode, bomb. Fortunately, I didn't go there. Next to Emperor Wang Tian, Bai Xiaoai, who was watching the changes according to Yilin's instructions, also had a look of astonishment on his face. Even Nai Hongxiu, who was always as cold as frost, had a flash of excitement in her beautiful snow-white eyes. Master, dead. How can it be? Isn't it said that good people don't live long, but evil people live for thousands of years? Why do you say it's gone? After reacting, Bai Xiaoai's 2 big eyes were filled with tears, and she subconsciously drifted forward. Master. Don't die. Ahem, cough, cough, don't curse me casually, Xiao Bai. A few seconds later, Bai Xiaoai's spiritual body had just taken a few steps, when a shadow strangely swept out from the mini mushroom cloud, and quickly condensed into the shape of Yilin behind the 2 mother spirits and Wang Tiandi. When Bai Xiaoai heard this familiar yet unbeatable voice, she froze for a moment, then reacted and angrily shouted, "Who is Xiao Bai?" Nai Hongxiu remained silent, her eyes opening and closing again, returning to her calm posture without any ripples. It was really dangerous just now. Whoever planned and designed this little monster actually has a self-destruction mechanism. Yilin was still frightened. Fortunately, he didn't get into combat mode at all. If he were to be attacked like this by a bouncing monster in a fighting state, only the rough-skinned and thick-bodied Li Erpang could withstand it. A crispy assassin like Yilin would never dare to think about it. Yilin lowered his head. Finger strokes. Just now, at the moment when the mob exploded, a prompt appeared in front of his eyes. The bond value of the Divine Sword by Xiaoi is add 10. The bond value of the Divine Sword Nai Hongxiu is add 10. The bond value of the Divine Sword by Xiaoi is add 10. The bond value of the Divine Sword Nai Hongxiu is add 10. It turns out that the bond value can be increased like this. Isn't this much faster than racking your brains to pluck wool? Yilin silently memorized this shortcut to increase bond value. But for this kind of shortcut, the right time, right place, and right people are indispensable, and the seemingly magic sword mood is very important. If the incident had not happened suddenly, the emotions of these two mother spirits would not have fluctuated so violently, causing the bond value to increase as much as the experience value. Yilin squinted her eyes and looked at the densely packed bouncing monsters in the path of sadness. He subconsciously played with the two-handed dagger, and the knives were flying, very skillfully. It's a bit troublesome. He looked down at the dog at his feet who was combing his messy hair. Wang Tiandi raised his head, tilted his head, and slowly typed a question mark. Yilin didn't hide anything and knew that Emperor Wang Tian had a very high IQ, so she simply spoke her mind. These monsters are a bit troublesome. It's not easy to get past them. Emperor Wang Tian smiled evilly. Don't get me wrong, I mean, it's not easy just because I took you with me. Emperor Wang Tian's smile froze. Yilin explained with a smile, if I am alone, you will not only eat and drink, but also hold me back when I want to go anywhere. You are not very good as a dog. Woof. Emperor Wang Tian rolled his eyes, bared his teeth, and raised his middle finger towards Yilin. Woof woof woof. Emperor Wang Tian barked wildly. In fact, what he wanted to ask was, what should be done now? Can't you just leave me alone? I haven't gone to kill monsters for a whole month because of you. Although Yilin didn't understand dog language, she could roughly guess Wang Tiandi's meaning from his demeanor, body movements, and tone of voice. Whether the guess is correct or not is another matter. Through careful observation, Yilin discovered that in this leveling area, the distribution of mobs was extremely dense. But in fact, to put it bluntly, it's all a bomb. There is actually no way to pass this leveling area. According to the normal routine, if a team is neatly equipped and has the same level or slightly crushes the monsters, with the tank in front and clearing the monsters quickly, it may not be too dangerous. The difficulty in this leveling area is nothing more than the cooperation of the team and the connection of skills and recovery. Well, that's the essence of turn-based games. The original intention of the designers of this leveling area is probably to allow players to experience the excitement and joy of the turn-based system. But Yilin can't play like this. Now, where can Yilin find some stupid players who are standing in front to resist damage? It's difficult. Yilin sighed. Emperor Wang Tiandi was right. Although this dog had bad motives, it had indeed been waiting for him in the University of Engineering for more than a month without any change in its grade. It seemed a little unreasonable to leave Wang Tiandi here like this. Rush over on a night dier? It seems to be a solution. Wait a minute, all the monsters here are self-destruction monsters. Doesn't that mean, it's easy to farm them? Suddenly, I had a bold idea. Emperor Wang Tian. Nai Hongxiu. Bai Xiaoi. A few minutes later, Yilin set up a fire and arrogantly had a delicious picnic with the dog on the monster's territory. The dog enjoyed the meal so much that he immediately forgot that Yilin had almost abandoned it. The two female spirits, Bai Xiaoi and Nai Hongxiu, were so angry that they were floating in the corner and sulking as they saw one person and one dog having a picnic there shamelessly because they had no physical body. Yulin glanced at the two mother spirits and said with a smile, "Don't be discouraged. After you upgrade, you may be able to have physical entities. When the time comes, Master promises to cook a special hot pot for you to eat to your heart's content." Bai Xiaoi, humph. Who cares? Nai Hungziu, no need. The bond value of the divine sword Bai Xiaoi is add 1. The bond value of the divine sword Nai Hungziu is add 1. Yilin silently praised the honesty of the two mother spirits. After eating and drinking enough, Yilin stood up slowly. "You guys stay here and don't run around. I'm going to explore the monster's hatred range." Emperor Wang Tian had the slightest suspicion, but this shameless man just talked nonsense, pretended to be a scumbag, and ran away quietly. But then I thought about it, the pot was still here, where could this shameless human go? So Wang Tiandi continued to happily wash the conguinio fillets with his long chopsticks. Ah, it smells so good. The dog is his own dog. The two mother spirits are also their own mother spirits. Yilin had nothing to hide, and activated Shadow Kill and Shadow Follower silently, turning into a dim shadow, and burrowed directly into the pile of monsters in broad daylight. Chi 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 chi. Yilin's figure flickered in and out of the group of bouncing monsters, which was very mysterious. He flickered and disappeared, causing waves of commotion in the path of sadness. Emperor Wang Tian was so happy with the fish fillets that he had no time to pay attention. But the two mother spirits who had been paying close attention to the master's movements were extremely puzzled. "What is master doing? Why did you pull a bunch of bombs? Do you think you have a long life?" 10 minutes later, Yilin returned to the original place sweating profusely. The turbulent path of sadness became peaceful again as Yilin left. Yilin returned to the hot pot and saw that the large plate of sashimi he had cut in advance had been completely eaten by this stupid dog. He couldn't help but twitch the corners of his eyes, and thought, the most disgusting thing is that this dog is actually picking his teeth. You are a real dog. Yilin reluctantly put campfires, hot pots, barbecue grills and other equipment into the props. After finishing cleaning up, Yilin took out another one-handed stick. The cheapest kind in the store. Only the simplest lines are engraved on it. Silently, Yilin began to meticulously draw criss-crossing lines on the empty ground to build a circuit based on the knowledge she had learned over the past month. Yilin seemed to be scribbling on the ground casually, but only he knew in his heart that the thickness and length of the lines had to be very precise. There are primary, secondary, and advanced textures. Although Nai Hungziu, Bai Xiaoi, and Wang Tiandi didn't quite understand what Yilin was doing. But when they saw Yilin frowning, sometimes pausing, sometimes writing rapidly, with a focused expression, they couldn't bear to disturb her. Anyway, there were no monsters running around on the edge of this sad path, and the two mother spirits could only watch Yilin's performance quietly. If you don't have an in-depth understanding of crystalline science, you really may not be able to understand it. Although that guy taught me all the basics of crystalline science, there is only one thing, whether it is the textbook or Adeng's course, none of them were mentioned. That is, the interaction between circuits. The complex formation at the top of the Izada Port Church is not simply made up of various loops. Between the loops and the loops, there are some ingenious structures hidden that are difficult to discover without careful observation. Perhaps it is these secret structures that are the most critical structures connecting all circuits. There is also the ground of Port Izada, the arrangement of each floor tile, and the location of certain landmarks. In fact, they are not just for beauty. More circuit structures must be hidden in the building and cannot be seen with your naked eyes. Simple stacking of circuits cannot exert that terrible power. If simply stacking circuits with similar functions together is like addition and subtraction, and those things that Aiden did not teach me should be its more advanced multiplication and division, or even exponentiation. 1 is born 2, 2 begets 4, and 4 begets 16. The power of crystal, in the complex structural circuit, will be infinitely amplified after being diffused through multiplication, division, or exponential. This is the real crystal pattern study. While talking to himself, Yilin drew complicated lines on the ground for a full half hour. The lines are densely packed with nodes, making it look like a postmodern painting. In the eyes of people who don't understand crystal pattern, it is just a set of simple lines and nodes. But if a great engineer like Deng saw the scene and the circuit built by Yilin, he would probably jump up in fear and run away as far away as possible. Done. After being highly concentrated and performing complex calculations in his mind, Yilin's forehead also broke out in dense beads of sweat. But when he looked at the masterpiece he drew with his own hands, he laughed happily like a child, very happy. "Master, what are you doing?" Bai Xiaoi saw that Yilin had finally finished her work. After waiting patiently for a long time, Bai Xiaoi couldn't help but step forward, floated to Yilin's side, and started gossiping with her chin in her hands. Yilin put away her one-handed stick and smiled without saying a word, but there was a light of eagerness in her eyes. The patterns and nodes have been constructed, and what remains is the most critical moment. Embed the corresponding crystal in the node. Crystal is the energy source of the super-large composite circuit. Without energy, no matter how awesome the circuit is, it's like a two-person spin at 10 times the speed, which is boring. There can be no deviation in the process of placing crystals in the nodes. Although Yilin deliberately left a breakpoint when constructing the circuit and left it to be filled in at the end to prevent the circuit from accidentally reacting and exploding in place during the process of placing the crystal. But Yilin can't guarantee that in the entire composite circuit, there will be no accidents in the circulation process of each single circuit. It's never wrong to be careful. At this time, we really can't take any chances. Deng, who was happily making tea and chatting with the dean's wife in the College of Engineering, expressed his deep understanding of this what-if situation. Finally, Yilin took out the crystals of various qualities in his backpack and put them all into the circuit. Only then did he have time to reply to Bai Xiaoi's words. Yilin asked the two mother spirits and Emperor Wang Tian to retreat far away, and personally repaired the last breakpoint of the super-large circuit. She smiled and said, "If I had to give it a name, it would be called rising from the same place, falling to the ground, turning into a box, reversing and then reversing the two-layered spiral of ice and fire. The short name is, the Great Spiral of Ice and Fire." Ah, this? Bai Xiaoi, Nai Hongxiu, and Wang Tiandi were stunned. Yilin nodded again with satisfaction. "I heard that the longer the name, the more awesome you feel." "Well, I've always been very confident in my naming taste." Yilin smiled kindly. Infinity Throne. Author, Bai Yi Xueshi. Chapter 385. The bouncing monsters jumped happily in their respective hatred ranges. That cute smile, coupled with that round, dark body, looks particularly unbeatable. The super-large circuit Yilin built may be said to have gone beyond the category of circuit and reached another realm that Aiden did not teach. In this super-large circuit, after Yilin used a single cane to fill in the final breakpoint, every node and the main core crystal suddenly lit up. The energy of the crystal flows silently in the circuit. The entire circuit exuded a mysterious brilliance, which shocked Nai Hongxiu, Bai Xiaoi, and Wang Tiandi, who witnessed this magical scene with their own eyes. They were unable to say a word and had different expressions. After the super-large circuit started to function, Yilin had already hid far away to avoid accidentally stepping in it. With a serious expression, Yilin opened her mouth to remind the two stunned female spirits and a male dog. "This thing is a death trigger structure. Even if I step in, I will be hit. Don't move around." Bai Xiaoi's eyes widened. "What if, accidentally, very accidentally, you step in?" Yilin was silent for a moment. He glanced at the two mother spirits with translucent bodies, and then at the stunned Wang Tiandi. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, "Well, you have no entity, so you should be fine. But this dog should be ready for eating, the dog meat is delicious and crunchy." Woof. Tai. Wang Tiandi's tail that was shaking subconsciously suddenly became straight, like an iron pillar. This is the first time Yilin has successfully constructed a supercomposite circuit of this scale on his own since he caused several laboratory explosion accidents. Being able to barely maintain the operation of the circuit has already exhausted Yilin's brain cells. Not to mention adding complex functions such as face recognition and friendly force recognition, which are completely beyond Yilin's capabilities. Don't blow it up early. Yilin thought silently in her heart. He did not express this concern to the two mother spirits and Emperor Wang Tian. After Yilin said those words, the two mother spirits and Wang Tiandi hid further. Guzi and Yilin regroup. After Yilin told them not to move around again, she slowly walked towards the vast sea of Bouncer. Call. Before actually taking action, Yilin took a long breath. His eyes opened and closed without any fluctuation, like a pool of stagnant water. The commotion caused by his recent entry into the depths of the Path of Sorrow was just an early test of this plan. As far as the eye can see, there are all bouncing monsters. These monsters with the attribute of self-destruction are all of the same type. The disadvantage is that once they accidentally enter the hatred range of other bouncers, they will trigger a series of terrifying reactions. Just imagine what it would be like to see a bunch of flammable and explosive bombs rolling in with legs and running faster than Li Erpang. But the benefits are also obvious. Bouncer will trigger self-destruction when its health drops to a certain range. Although Yilin has not really tried the power of explosions in the turn-based mode, if nothing unexpected happens, this self-destruction should be considered AoE damage. The damage is not only high, but also wide-ranging, extremely terrifying. From the time Yilin was bombed, to one person and one dog making hot pot, to Yilin completing the construction of the entire super large circuit, it took several hours. It may seem like a waste of time, but if Yilin's plan succeeds, it will all be worth it. It should be said that only success is allowed and failure is not allowed. Yilin has invested not only time and energy in this wave, but also a bunch of various crystals accumulated since the beginning of the game. Building a circuit, it's all money. The hatred range of each boggy monster is about 10 meters. The location of the super loop of rising to the sky, landing on the ground, turning into a box, and then reversing the two-layered spiral of ice and fire is just stuck at the boundary of the Path of Sorrow. If it goes beyond this range, the bouncing monsters will leave the state of hatred and return to into the Path of Sorrow. Yilin closed her eyes. After resting, Yilin felt that her brain power had recovered a lot and she started calculating again. The 100-meter distance of the poison-quenching dagger can almost cover the circle of bouncers. There is no pressure on the distance. The difficulty lies in the route. The skill effect of the poison dagger, when used on the map, will cause damage 4 times, and the interval between each damage is about 4 seconds. In other words, if you use the poison dagger to hold back the hatred of the bouncing monster, it will last about 16 seconds. Based on my current agility attributes and physical flexibility, I can calculate it by throwing a poison-quenching dagger in 0.4 seconds. No, 0.4 seconds is not enough, 0.3 seconds is necessary. At this time, the importance of hand speed in equipment finally comes to light. After pulling the 53rd bouncing monster, I have to start from the first bouncing monster, reconnect with the poisoned dagger, and make up for the hatred. Coupled with extreme movement, I can pull it completely in one go at most. Bouncer should be 125. Unfortunately, the speed of the dire is too fast, and the monsters are too dense. If you ride the dire, it will easily hit the dire's face and explode on the spot. Otherwise, with the dire's speed, it will be more than enough to evade the monsters. Yilin twisted her waist, shook her legs, and completed her warm-up activities. So. Go, go, go. This time, Yilin did not choose the usual sneaking method, and directly used the speed of a 100-meter race to dive into the monster pile. Poison-quenching dagger. Once she took action, Yilin didn't hesitate at all, her brain was working rapidly, as if she was an emotional computer. Pull monsters. The moment bouncing monster number 1 was greened, he chirped and howled as he rushed towards Yilin. This is, no one. Just turning her eyes for a moment, Yilin remembered this monster number 1 in her heart. But Yilin's movements didn't pause at all, and she turned around gracefully. Within 0.3 seconds, her wrist shook again, and she threw the poison-quenching dagger at another bouncing monster. While continuously releasing skills, Yilin must also carefully shuttle among the groups of bouncing monsters, memorize the hatred range of each bouncing monster in his mind, and form a complex hate map. Swish swish swish. Green daggers were flying, and each mob quickly turned green. -1. -2. -2. In just a few seconds, there were already a group of bouncing monsters with green poisoning damage on their heads, chasing Yilin's butt, biting and refusing to let go. The operation involved sounds complicated, but in fact, it's even more terrifyingly complicated to do. Yilin must always pay attention to the location of each monster, remember the number of each monster, change the route to attract monsters at any time, and remember the hatred range of monsters. In addition, Yilin must also pay attention to his crystal energy value at all times. At critical moments, he must also use Shadow Follower intermittently to affect the rhythm of the bouncing monster. Before this, Yilin never thought that he could perform such a cheating operation, but when Yilin entered the state, his whole person was completely different. He was focused on nothing and had no other thoughts. In his eyes and mind, it seemed that only the adorable bouncing monsters and the routes and circles he had simulated in his mind were left. Another extremely difficult aspect of the above operations is actually the fault tolerance rate. Yilin is now among the monsters, although Yilin has enough means to escape. But if you accidentally fail to escape in time, the consequences needless to say. Gradually, Yilin entered an extremely fantasy state. Why does a good online game suddenly become fantasy? But even he himself couldn't explain the state clearly. In an instant, Yilin closed her eyes out of nowhere. In front of him, there was nothing but darkness. But the strange thing is that the location of each monster is clearly identifiable in his perception. What's this? With her concentration so high, Yilin had no time to think about why she suddenly felt like she was blessed. This behavior of subconsciously using another sense of touch to sense the surroundings is like a habit imprinted in the bones. With extreme concentration, Yilin does it smoothly without any room for thinking. In this weird perception state, the position of each monster is as clear to Yilin's perception as if it were from God's perspective, and Yilin's movements to attract monsters are no longer obscure. Now, this bold idea, the only thing that can limit Yilin is hand speed. Woof, woof woof. Open, cheat. Emperor Wang Tian was completely stunned. This shameless human being is cheating again. Not to mention Emperor Wang Tian, even Bai Xiaoi and Nai Hongzia were completely stunned. From their perspective, Yilin could be seen throwing away a few daggers after rushing into the pile of monsters, and everything turned green. And Yilin's movements were frighteningly skillful, and her nimble steps were like a top dancer dancing on the tip of a knife, with a sense of elegance and calmness. Forget it. Jumping, jumping, he even closed his eyes. Ridiculous. How did he do this? Rumble, rumble. In a brief moment of astonishment, the vast number of bouncing monsters in front of me was almost completely green. Each one with green damage numbers, under Yilin's intentional or unintentional control route, is like countless scattered streams, reuniting into a vast ocean, heading towards the prearranged rising to the sky, landing on the ground, forming a box, inverting and then inverting ice and fire, two great spirals collective attack. Rumble, rumble. Finally. In the green numbers, Wang Tiandi waited eagerly and finally saw Yilin's figure. Behind him. Rumble. Hundreds of bouncing monsters stirred up sand and mud as they ran wildly, covering the sky and blocking out the sun. Stay away. Yilin finally opened her eyes, unable to hide her tiredness, but she shouted at Emperor Wang Tian. In fact, there was no need for Yilin to say anything, before Wang Tiandi ran away without looking back. Under Yilin's deliberate control, the group of bouncing monsters behind her were almost only one body away from Yilin's butt. Not to mention being caught up, if Yilin accidentally fell down at this critical moment, the consequences would be disastrous. This is no longer a question of turn-based or turn-based. This will be an earth-shattering explosion. Kia ran in front of the super-large circuit, the great spiral of ice and fire. Yilin suddenly turned into a shadow and dived into the ground along the cracks in the rocks. Go, go, go. As the initiator of all this, Yilin himself was not sure whether hiding under the circuit would be affected by the super-large circuit. After the circuit was constructed, its power was no longer within his control. The target he had been chasing suddenly disappeared, and a question mark suddenly appeared among the green numbers above the head of the jumping monster. But how can this speed of attack stop? The bouncy monster running at the front suddenly stepped into the loop. In the super-large circuit, between the criss-crossing textures, light lit up, stinging the eyes of everyone, dogs, and spirits. Infinity Throne. Author, Bai Yi Xueshi. Chapter 386. In the super-large circuit, the core main crystal and the crystal fragments distributed in each node all light up with varying degrees of light. Crystals of various colors intertwined into a brilliant light, like a curtain of light, suddenly dispersing the gray color in the path of sadness. The first bouncing monster that broke into the loop slowed down inexplicably, and its surface was silent and covered with a layer of frost. This mighty wave of jumping monsters was completely pulled away by Yilin. Even Yilin couldn't stop suddenly in this very short time, let alone them. As bouncy monster number 1 suddenly decelerated under the power of the crystal, behind number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. No N, the bouncy monster, rolled over one after another, collided one after another, and bounced into the center of the loop. This scene was like a bag of round beads being thrown onto the ground, crashing together and leaking all over the floor. The deceleration circuit, quick freezing circuit, and cooling circuit function one after another. Densely packed bouncing monsters were crowded in the center of the super-large circuit. Ka-ka-ka. The ground carrying the super-large circuit made strange noises, and cracks visible to the naked eye appeared on the surface. Ejection circuit, heating circuit, acceleration circuit. The circuits of various functions were forcibly fit together by Yilin in an unskilled way, using the techniques he had learned. But now all the messy circuits with many functions were completely triggered after hundreds of bouncing monsters squeezed in. It seemed that even the ground was constantly shaking, as if it could not bear the energy flowing through the crystals in the circuits. Boom! There was a flash of light in the super-large circuit, and hundreds of bouncing monsters were suddenly launched high into the sky. In the circuit, blazing light, scalding breath, and freezing white mist intertwined into a terrifying special effect. Emperor Wang Tian stayed in the distance, wishing he could put on goggles to protect his dog eyes and allow him to see more clearly. Te Wang, it turns out that this is rising from the same place to the sky, landing on the ground, turning into a box, reversing, and then reversing the two-layered spiral of ice and fire. Really ascended to heaven on the spot. Boom! The whole circuit exploded. Boom boom boom. The explosion of the circuit is just the beginning. The bouncing monster has the property of self-destruction. After suffering the first wave of damage, the curly hair on the foreheads of all the bouncing monsters ignited at the same time. A blazing pillar of fire rose into the sky. All exploded. Congratulations, you defeated Bouncer. Get gold coins, add 65G. Gain experience value, add 2333. Congratulations, you defeated Bouncer. Get gold coins, add 72G. Gain experience value, add 2123. Congratulations. Level increased to LV37. Get God-given points. Congratulations. Level increased to LV38. Get God-given points. Congratulations. Level increased to LV39. Get God-given points. Congratulations. Level increased to LV40. Get God-given points. I don't know how much time passed. It seemed like a long time, but it seemed like just a moment. There was no way, this violent explosion scene was comparable to the special effects of a big scene in a popcorn movie, and it almost blinded Wang Tiandi's dog eyes and Yi Lin's eyes. For a moment, the only sound left in the ears of one person and one dog was the rumbling sound of explosions. In front of them was a messy special effect of the two heavens of ice and fire reversing again and again, making them forget the passage of time. When all the dust settled and hundreds of bouncing monsters turned into materials and experience points, one man and one dog finally came to their senses. 4 rays of bright golden light fell one after another. Upgrade 4 levels in a row. Before the big explosion subsided, the two adventurers Yi Lin and Wang Tiandi were instantly flooded with a series of messages. Even, they have the illusion that the information is refreshed too fast and the system is stuck several times. The large explosion hit the center of the scene, leaving only pitted gray land covered in charred black. There was steam everywhere that had not yet dissipated. Ice and fire reacted violently in the circuit. The crystal energy evolved from two conflicting energies through the circuit. After the explosion, only a vast expanse of white water vapor remained in place. Yi Lin looked at it for a long time and suddenly frowned. Why isn't there a treasure chest? Is this violence rate too low? This big explosion cleared the leveling area. Occasionally, a few bouncing monsters that didn't have time to pull in, after getting out of the hatred range, were so frightened that they quickly left the explosive maniac, ran back to their own territory, and swore to never provoke this terrible man again. Yi Lin and Wang Tiandi began to count the harvest. Ding! But at this moment, a tinkling sound came from the ears of one person and one dog at the same time. Bing again? Yi Lin was a little surprised. What's going on at this time? The system information screen had been stuck for a long time, and the system prompt slowly faded away. New information emerges. Congratulations! Your team completed the feat of killing 100 monsters within 5 seconds. Your cunningness won the admiration of Uranus and completed the only hidden achievement. This is not scientific at all. Get the title, Fraudster. Get the special equipment, Concentric Fraudster's Ring. When Yi Lin saw the prompt clearly, she couldn't help but look slightly startled. This is very unexpected. I didn't expect that this unintentional act could accomplish a hidden achievement. Frauder. Yi Lin carefully pondered the meaning of this title. Why does it sound weird? God certified, a cheater? Yi Lin struggled for a while and decided not to reveal the title of Frauder. The title of the equipment can only be used to show off, and there are no other attribute bonuses. If the title Frauder is revealed, wouldn't it be easy for others to misunderstand that one is cheating? This kind of misunderstanding is inevitable. Low-key cheating, bah. Exploring loopholes in game mechanics in a low-key manner is the way to go. Yi Lin was even more surprised that even after swiping hundreds of bouncing monsters, not a single treasure box exploded. The explosion rate of treasures in this game was horribly low. Just when Yi Lin was complaining about the ridiculous explosion rate, she didn't expect that after completing a hidden achievement, the system sent out a special piece of equipment. Judging from the name of the equipment, it seems that it is a rare accessory part. Yulin moved her index finger forward and opened the game's props interface. A black, low-key ring lay quietly in the last prop slot, dim. Of course, to Yulin, it doesn't matter whether the equipment is cool or not, the attributes are the key. Yulin looked at the shape of the ring for a few seconds, then ignored it and took out the concentric fraudster ring to check the properties of the special equipment. Concentric fraudster's ring, 1/2. Rarity SS. Category ring set. Part accessories. Attribute movement speed at 35%, 50% chance of causing real damage. Effect when receiving fatal damage, if the health value of another wearer of concentric fraudster's ring, 2/2, is not 0, he will be immune to this fatal damage and forcibly lock the health value within 3 seconds. This effect can only be triggered once every 24 hours. Durable, cannot be worn. Explanation: you are not playing the same game as others. Yulin. Emperor Wang Tian. One person and one dog took out the special equipment concentric fraudster ring at the same time and looked at each other silently. I don't know why, but they all have the illusion that this equipment is mocking them for cheating. After looking at each other, Yulin and Wang Tiandi equipped the concentric fraudster ring at the same time. Regardless of whether it is ironic or not, the effect of this piece of equipment is so fragrant. It's truly SS-level special equipment. Yulin looked at the dark ring on her finger and sighed secretly. According to the normal game flow, this hidden achievement completion condition of kill 100 monsters within 5 seconds should be a very, very, very difficult feat to complete. Or, like Yulin, use unique talents and skills to prevent yourself from entering turn-based battles, and then combine the special attributes of the bouncing monster and the characteristics of the super large circuit to explode instantly to achieve such a difficult achievement. Or, there are some special terrains in the game that can kill such a number of monsters at the same time. No matter which way it is, the right time, place, and harmony are indispensable. Even if it is the lowest level monster around Labutown, under the turn system, it is impossible to kill 100 monsters in 5 seconds by killing them in circles. No wonder this achievement is called "This is not scientific at all." Cheating. Cheating. Divine certification. Children and old people are not deceived. Yulin was very pleased. The properties of this piece of equipment are completely worth these hours of effort. Yulin's hard work was not in vain. Emperor Wang Tian looked at the small ring between his paws, smiling wildly and unrestrainedly. It never expected it. After making hot pot, not only did I get a lot of experience points for free, but I also got a piece of SS level equipment for free. Quack quack woof. Smiling, Wang Tiandi found that his voice had changed. But think about it again, there is nothing wrong with being a dog. Thinking of this, Emperor Wang Tian's smile became even brighter, and he circled Yulin 3 times to the left and 3 times to the right, his tail whirring, leaving only an afterimage but no fur. Concentric fraudster's ring in the attribute column, Yulin couldn't figure out what the so-called real damage was for a while. But this effect, which can only be triggered once in 24 hours, is definitely what Yulin needs most at the moment. Within 24 hours, as long as the dog does not die, Yulin is equivalent to having a death-free gold medal. As a crispy assassin, Yulin has this precious error tolerance. Naturally, she has no scruples when trying out many ideas, and can become more and more bold without panicking at all. After Yulin carefully confirmed that there was no residual crystal energy in the messy explosion scene, he slowly walked inside and put away all the loot. Obtain black powder *1. Obtain black powder *1. They are all uniform, dangerous-looking materials and props. 79 copies in total. Fortunately, similar props in props can be stacked into 99/group and only occupy one space. Otherwise, according to Yulin's brushing method, the meager prop grid is completely insufficient. After cleaning the explosion scene, Yilin used the fastest speed to check the God-given points obtained after upgrading to LV40. Bang bang bang. Yilin ordered 3 of them in one go. The added attributes are all basic attributes, including heart rate, which are not worth mentioning. As for the God-given points at level 40, skills again? Yilin didn't hesitate and decisively slapped the God's gift point on it. Bleeding Dagger. Type active, throwing, combat, map, continuous. Consumption 20 crystal energy. Effect used on any target within 100 meters, adding bleeding status, lasting 4 rounds. Yilin took a look at the properties of the new skill and closed the player panel, feeling neither happy nor sad. This skill is similar to Poison Tempering Dagger. The difference is that one has an additional poison state and the other has an additional bleeding state. According to Yilin's understanding, debuffing seems to be a regular gameplay method for assassins. It's quite satisfactory and not worthy of boasting or surprise. After finally clearing the first half of the Path of Sorrow, Yilin, Wang Tiandi, and the 2 mother spirits did not stay in place for too long, lest the bouncing monsters would reappear and block the way forward again. Along the empty Path of Sorrow, the team of people, dogs, and mother spirits walked for about half an hour. There is a fork in the road ahead. On the grey land in the distance, there is a large group of pitiful monsters that are round, black, and even more adorable. There are curly hairs on the top of the monster's head. Yilin was stunned. Come again? Big bouncing monster. LV43. One person and one dog looked at each other in silence. The next second. Yilin, smile kindly. The dog's smile gradually changed. The third day. Deep in the Path of Sorrow. Looking ahead, there is a continuous mountain range. From a distance, the continuous mountains look like a ferocious grey beast, dormant silently, and ready to bare its fangs at any time. It gives people a heavy sense of oppression. But neither Yilin nor Guzi had time to understand this heaviness. Can't even feel it? Congratulations. Level increased to LV46. Get God-given points. Congratulations. Level increased to LV47. Get God-given points. 2 golden lights in succession, almost in no particular order, landed on the heads of Yilin and Wang Tiandi. Bathed in the upgraded light, Yilin and Wang Tiandi were both in a happy mood, and naturally had no time to appreciate the heaviness of the distant scenery. There was even some reluctance. This is so heavy. The Path of Sorrow is obviously a treasure land for leveling, right? Yilin skillfully ran into the messy explosion scene where scorched earth and steam and mist coexisted, and pocketed the loot everywhere. Obtain advanced black powder *32. It seems that such inedible materials and props have never been able to get into Wang Tiandi's eyes. Yilin could only work harder and silently keep all the trophies. For the time being, Yilin is not sure what the use of these materials is. Anyway, there is still some space in the props, so save it first. Maybe it will be used someday. Didn't Yilin also make the same mistakes as all elite players? In many open-ended games, there are materials all over the floor. Players stop and go, picking up garbage, and their bags are full after picking up. Faced with the materials stuffed into the bag, it is neither easy to throw away nor use, which is very embarrassing. If you keep doing this, there won't be enough space grids. Yilin closed the props panel in distress and sighed. You can't eat these either. The other side. Wang Tiandi wiped his mouth. A dog is having a picnic and making hot pot alone. The thin fish fillet was also finished. Ah, how do you say this? Top quality ingredients often only require the simplest cooking methods. Wang Tiandi silently raised his paws and gave a thumbs up to the ingredients that had not yet been digested in his stomach. After enjoying the baptism of upgraded light, Emperor Wang Tian had time to look at Yilin and cast a questioning look. It seems to be saying, is it over? Yilin understood instantly and said angrily, you've wasted your experience in whoring and your eating and drinking, so what qualifications do you have to push me, Hunden? The dog smiled evilly, raised the concentric fraudster ring that was tightly clasped on his paw, and smiled without barking. Yilin fell silent for a moment. After a long silence, Yilin looked up to the sky and sighed, you are a real dog. After ignoring Guz's wanton smile, Yilin silently opened the player panel and looked at his upgraded attributes. Character Yilin. Sex, male. Age 1/8. Level 47. Experience 12333/96999, 1.2%. Occupation Assassin, Intermediate Engineer. Health 1046/1046. Crystal Energy Value 525/525. Strength 4.2. Agility 5.0, add 0.9. Spirit 8.5, add 0.9. Will 8.0. Lucky 2.6. Charm 1.4. Talent skills Haunted by Disaster, Follow Like a Shadow, Shadow Kill, Grasp of Annihilation, Summon Mount Night Dire. God-given skills Poison Dagger, Poisonous Assassination, Two-Knife Style, Concentration, Feint Attack, Lock-Picking, Bleeding Dagger, Laceration Wound. It's almost time to go. Yilin looked at the empty path of sadness and sighed. Although the monsters in the leveling area are very pleasant to brush, the cost is too high. Using the circuit of ascending to the sky, landing on the ground, forming a box, reversing and then reversing the two-layered spiral of ice and fire improved version to spawn monsters like crazy, Yilin's level soared like a rocket. When he came to the Path of Sorrow, he was only LV 36. When he left before, the level had been raised by 10 levels. Excluding the time spent sleeping, refining the mother spirit bond value, walking the dog, having a picnic, barbecue, and cooking hot pot, the total time Yilin and Wang Tiandi spent on slaying monsters and leveling up did not exceed 24 hours. Now the player levels of Yilin and Wang Tiandi have exceeded this leveling area by a lot. If they continue to level up in this way, the gains outweigh the losses. And, it's not necessary. Yilin's main purpose of leaving the Great Engineer College was not just to level up and brush monsters. There is enough to gain in the Path of Mourning. Yilin rubbed the jet black ring on her hand, thoughtfully. When he closed his eyes, the scenery around him was even clearer than when he opened his eyes. What kind of skill is this? Is there something wrong with my account? When Yilin opened her eyes again, the weird feeling of everything was under control dissipated. But Yilin's doubts became more and more intense. On the panel, there is no attribute description about this state at all. This state feels more like instinct to Yilin, which cannot be explained by skills or attribute effects alone. Everything seemed to fall into place, and Yilin easily entered that weird state with little effort. Yilin had various speculations about the truth about his amnesia, about his identity, and the true face of this game world. But without any evidence, or until all the truth is revealed, all speculations are castles in the air and cannot be confirmed or further elaborated. When upgrading to LV 45, Yilin's God-given panel once again unlocked a brand new skill. This skill is obviously used in conjunction with the Bleeding Dagger. Lacerating Wound. Type Active, Combat, Map. Consumption 40 Crystal Energy. Effect inflicts a heavy blow to a target with the bleeding status that completely opens the wound, and the damage is increased by 50%. The bleeding status will be cleared after using the skill. Yilin played with the dagger skillfully with both hands. In the process of attracting monsters, Yilin became familiar with the use of new skills and tried several different combos. Master, are we leaving? Bai Xiaoi tilted her head and asked. In the past few days, because there were no outsiders, Yilin had been accustomed to releasing the two mother spirits to increase the bond value without any trouble, and her relationship with the two mother spirits had improved. The most obvious change is that Bai Xiaoai's tone and attitude towards him have become much better. With Yilin's efforts, the bond value of the two mother spirits has finally improved from friendly to cordial, which is gratifying. Xiaohong, your hair looks great today. What shampoo did you use? Nai Hongxiu closed her eyes. Get out. The bond value of the divine sword Nai Hongxiu is add 2. Look, the process of earning bond points is so simple and boring. From time to time, I chat with the mother spirits about life and ideals. Although the bond value progress is slow, there are always gains. There are still question marks on the divine sword. But after the bond value was upgraded to friendly, Yilin poked the monster and found that the damage was a bit higher. This should be the main function of the bond value. This leveling area has been wiped out by Yilin. The few remaining big bouncing monsters seem to understand the horror of this man and the dog, and they hid and refused to show up. They were extremely hateful. Yilin put away the question mark divine sword, took Wang Tiandi, Nai Hongxiu and Bai Xiaoai away from the path of sorrow and entered the Mist Mountains. On the map of the Mist Mountains, the scenery matches the name. It is surrounded by gloomy dense forests and filled with thick fog. After entering here, the depression that hit their faces diluted the joy of Yilin and Wang Tiandi's rapid upgrade. The climbing path is not too steep and is within the acceptable range of Yilin. The two mother spirits were just floating in mid-air, never touching the ground, and there was no such thing as climbing a mountain. On the ground, gray prism barbs protrude from time to time, replacing the normal surface vegetation. Yilin and the dog stepped on the ground, leaving a dense layer of gray crystal powder behind them, as well as the sound of cracking crystals. Shortly after entering the Mist Mountains, the dog's ears suddenly stood up. It was like hearing something. Ka-ka-ka. Deep in the dense forest filled with thick fog, there was a faint sound of crushing crystals, coming from far and near, reaching Yilin's ears. Master. Nai Hongxiu's long silver hair moved freely in the wind, red makeup and bare feet, and her snow-white eyes were slightly condensed. Thanks for the reminder, Xiaohong. In fact, there was no need to remind Yilin that there was a monster approaching from the front. It's a compliment, it doesn't cost money, and it can increase the bond value by the way, so why wouldn't Yilin do it? Whoosh! Deep in the fog, a black shadow suddenly appeared. When Yilin saw the shape of the monster clearly, she was slightly startled and subconsciously looked at Wang Tiandi at her feet. Emperor Wang Tian was also stunned, with a confused face. Killing machine dog type 2. LV45. It's a dog. Well, it's a dog. Obviously, it's a dog. It's just that the dog's body is made of unknown metal, with rust on the surface. On the back of the mechanical dog, part of the armor plate has aged and peeled off, exposing the gears and texture structure under the armor plate. Beep beep beep. Killing machine dog type 2. The eyes of the pair of dogs were red and shining. Yilin looked carefully and could vaguely see the cross-shaped crosshair pattern in the eyes of the mechanical dog. Woof. Emperor Wang Tian became angry instantly. He took out his fighting claws that had almost never been used since they were brand new from the factory, kicked off his dog legs, and prepared to charge forward. Wait a minute. Yilin, with quick eyesight and quick hands, grabbed the dog's hind legs and said, "Be careful, wait until I try it." When dealing with every new monster that appears, Yilin is always used to testing it out to see the characteristics of the monster. The lessons of the path of sorrow are still fresh in my mind. If there are another bunch of self-destruction monsters, that's really great. The mobs that can self-destruct, please give me another dozen. Woof woof woof. Can you tolerate this? Wang Tiandi rolled his eyes and was very dissatisfied with Yilin's holding back. But after all, it cost Yilin a lot of experience points in vain, so he still had to give him some face. What can't be tolerated? I'm not a dog. Yilin muttered, in response, the daggers in both hands lit up at the same time, and the skills were activated. The dagger in his right hand lit up with a bloody red light, while the dagger in his left hand lit up with a green light. Skill activates. Poison quenching dagger. Bleeding dagger. 2 translucent skill light effects, 1 red and 1 green, came out. While ravaging the Pogo family in the Path of Sorrow, Yilin discovered a trick to perform skills on the map. Throwing skills can have different debuffs on 2 daggers. This may be the real gameplay of 2-knife style. There is nothing to say. It would be unjustifiable if the Urdeo style couldn't play like this. There was only one monster on the opposite side, and its level was a little lower than Yilin and Wang Tiandi. Yilin didn't bother to do so many operations, and simply used skills to defeat it. Dang! Dang! The red and green dagger special effects flew to the Killing Machine Dog Type 2 head, but were ruthlessly bounced back. Yilin slowly typed a question mark. Killing Machine Dog Type 2 also slowly raised a question mark. But the meanings of these 2 question marks are quite different. What Yilin was confused about was why the skill was bounced away. What the mechanical dog was wondering was what was going on with this sudden scraping. After a while, Yilin looked confused and read the attribute descriptions of the 2 skills again in front of the mobs. Could it be that the 2 negative states of poisoning and bleeding have no effect on mechanical monsters? It's just a game, is it necessary to be so realistic? Woof. Rightward arrow. Rightward arrow. Emperor Wang Tian rolled his eyes and cast a contemptuous look at Yilin. As for the assassin, when the 2 skills are thrown out, there is no damage. While scorning, Wang Tiandi, who was already ready to attack, rushed towards the mechanical dog like a cannonball, whirring in the wind, and slapped it with 1 claw. -233. Flat a knowing blow. Yilin. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 387. An aperture-enveloped killing machine dog type 2, Wang Tiandi, and Yilin. 2 almost transparent chains extend from the 2 female spirits, Nai Hongxiu and Bai Xiaoi, and are connected to Yilin. Bond. This is the mysterious power of the Excalibur. Although Yilin has not noticed an improvement in his attributes for the time being, I wonder if it is an illusion. With the bonus of Bond, Yilin feels that she is much more awesome. Yilin felt like she hadn't played a turn-based game for a long time. The long-lost turn-based game actually made Yilin feel a little nostalgic. Anyway, the level of the monster is not high. In the first round, Yilin silently activated Following like a shadow and stayed silent. After Yilin activated Shadow Follower, even Wang Tiandi seemed to ignore Yilin's existence. A real dog, a mechanical dog, jumped across the field repeatedly, killing people back and forth. Yilin used a feint attack to kill him, and the operation was as fierce as a tiger's. At first glance, the damage was only 0. This monster did not pose much of a threat to Yilin's team. Although the dog was howling and snarling, its movements were gorgeous, and it hit the mechanical dog's face with a series of fighting skills, but in fact the damage was only that much. After a few rounds, the light in the red eyes of Killing Machine Dog Type 2 dimmed, the whole body made a rattling sound, and was scrapped on the spot. Congratulations, you defeated the Killing Machine Dog Type 2. EXP add 1075. Get Precision Gear *1. After swiping this monster, Yilin habitually checked the loot. A gear material. There doesn't seem to be much to see. Yilin closed the props panel, feeling a little helpless. Unexpectedly, mechanical monsters are not affected by debuffs such as bleeding and poisoning. As a result, Yilin's combos were weakened at an epic level. Do you only have this little experience? Yilin murmured quietly, but she was not surprised. After all, his and Emperor Wang's levels have exceeded the level of monsters, and the experience points gained after killing monsters have plummeted. After discovering that his combos were not working well, Yulin was too lazy to show off his moves to Wang Tiandi. Simply form a team with Wang Tiandi, follow the normal game mode, and push all the way into the depths of the Mist Mountains. In addition to mechanical dogs, there are also various mechanical monsters wandering in the Mist Mountains, including dog type, female type, horse type, and tank type. The various strange-looking machines opened Yulin's eyes. If she didn't want to spend too much time here, Yulin would even have the urge to dismantle these machines and see the circuit structure inside. All kinds of killing machines exploded with various parts. Gears, bearings, lubricants, levers. Yulin looked at the miscellaneous parts and materials in the props and suddenly had a bold idea in her heart. These parts, can they be reassembled into a complete machine? Although I'm not proficient in this area, there are many related teaching materials in the library on the 54th floor. It shouldn't be difficult to study according to the teaching materials. Use crystals as power, various circuits to replace some complex functions, and use mechanical structures as skeletons. While pushing horizontally all the way, Yulin used Shadow Follower to paddle while pondering the feasibility of this idea. It seems, it really works. Yulin nodded secretly. Brush up. Yulin waved his hand, and one man and one dog charged into the pile of killing machines majestically. Night. Crescent moon. One person and one dog are having a picnic in the foggy mountains. There are all mechanical monsters in the Mist Mountains, and you can't eat any of them. So what Yulin and Gozi ate were all the previous stocks. Emperor Wang Tiandi was lying alone with a dog, his green dog eyes looking straight at the crescent moon in the sky, with a complicated light in his eyes. Yulin skillfully added various seasonings to the pot, and the tangy aroma spread slowly. He accidentally glanced at Wang Tiandi and couldn't help but smile. You must be thinking of the little she-wolf in the moonlight jungle, right? Emperor Wang Tian was stunned. What Yulin didn't expect was that Gozi didn't get angry, but nodded. Haha, ask the world, what is love? You can teach wolves and dogs to commit life and death to each other, crossing the boundaries of species. Yulin gave Wang Tiandi a full bowl of moonlight wolf stewed mushroom soup. Just in time, eating wolf meat and thinking about the she-wolf, it's a perfect fit for the occasion. Emperor Wang Tian. A night of silence. The next day, Yulin and Wang Tiandi successfully arrived at the location marked with times on the map. This is a ruins. There are densely packed killing machines circling inside. Not to mention that Yulin and the dog have formed a level-crushing relationship, and Yulin and the dog have the special effect of the concentric fraudster ring as a final insurance. The action is also very bold. At this point, it is a straight line. To Yulin's surprise, after wiping out the mechanical monsters outside, Yulin and the dog finally arrived at the end of the ruins. Inside, there was a boss that they had been waiting for a long time. The 3-meter-tall mechanical giant was originally squatting on the ground. After sensing the intruder, the mechanical giant's two lantern-like eyes suddenly lit up. Beep beep beep. Discover, invasion. Machine Lord Alpha. LV-49. Yulin and Gozi looked at each other, and before the little boss in the ruins could finish his lengthy opening remarks, they attacked him in unison. Your level is not even a question mark, how can you be worthy of being a boss? Pooh. You do not deserve. Yulin has seen quite a few boss. If you want to maintain the boss's strong character, you have to have a skull and a question mark level to give people a certain sense of oppression. The boss, whose level was displayed directly in front of him, seemed to have high defense and toughness, but not to mention Yulin, even Wang Tiandi didn't hesitate much when he rushed forward. Mechanical Lord Alpha, XX. Hiss. No. 20 minutes later. Congratulations, you successfully killed Machine Lord Alpha. EXP add 42,000. Get corrupted mechanical core *1. A round material burst out. When Wang Tiandi saw that it was an inedible ingredient, he was immediately bored and didn't bother to compete with Yilin. After Yilin put away the equipment exploded by the boss, she thought about it for a moment and found that the fallen mechanical core was similar to other materials such as gears and lubricants. At present, she couldn't see anything special about it, so she could only leave it at that. Put it away and wait until you return to the Great Engineering Tower to make further plans. The Mechanical Lord, who was full of strength, didn't resist beatings very well. He only lasted 20 minutes and gained experience points. Under the impact of this wave of experience points, a bright golden light fell on Yilin's head. Congratulations! Level increased to LV 50. Get God-given points. Level 50. After spending 2 days in this leveling area, I finally raised my level to LV 50. If Yilin and Wang Tiandi were not at a higher level, this process might have been faster. However, the journey was uneventful and Yilin had nothing to complain about. In the lingering light of upgrades, Yilin quickly opened the God's Gift panel to see what new skills the key God's Gift points could reveal. After image clone. Type active, combat. Consumption 80 crystal energy. Effect after use, 2 clones with 100% attack power of the main body can be separated. The main body's actions and skills will be synchronized to the clones. Duration, 1 round. Clone. Last for 1 round. Yilin carefully considered the effect of the new skill. She was pleasantly surprised at first, and then a little disappointed. Surprisingly, this is an explosive skill, which is very assassin. Disappointingly, this skill can only be used in turn-based combat and cannot be added to Yilin's combos. Such a pity. Yilin shook her head, quickly put her mind aside, put aside the regret, and closed the God-given panel. If this after-image clone skill can really be used in a non-combat state, then his combos will really be no different from cheating. 2 clones with 100% attack power of the main body are separated. If Yilin's skills can be synchronized to the clones, it will be equivalent to his output, which will triple in an instant. With such a terrifying skill, even if Hermelos showed his blood bar in front of him, Yilin would still dare to try it. It seems that the combo is too strong, and even the system can't stand it. Yilin could only think so. Thinking of this, Yilin suddenly had a clear idea and felt comfortable. After sorting out the loot and God-given points, Yilin habitually opened the player attributes panel and took a look. Experience 323/129105, 0%. The next level requires nearly 130,000 experience points to upgrade. In the later stages, the 10% increase in experience points at each level becomes even more terrifying. According to this rhythm, the experience points required to rise to LV 99 will be a terrifying number. 5.31 million. When Yilin quickly calculated the experience points required for only LV 99, she silently closed the player attribute panel. The road is long and the road to leveling up is still long. After searching around the boss room, Yilin found nothing special except the bare walls. No wonder the maps sold in the store are marked with times. Has this place really been visited? According to the realistic design style of this game, even if there are any treasures here, they have been taken away by other adventurers, otherwise it would not be possible to leave an X on the map. If you want to find precious treasures or equipment, you have to go to the foggy areas where no one has ever visited. But I also passed by the Mist Mountains. I bought so many mechanical materials. Including the experience points, it's not a big loss. After clearing the dungeon of the ruins, Yilin and Wang Tiandi, as qualified adventurers, did not stop in the empty ruins. They crossed the ruins and the Mist Mountains non-stop to reach the next leveling area. A few hours later, the dense fog all around finally became lighter. Yilin and Wang Tiandi crushed the grey prism barbs on the ground, leaving behind a layer of powder. They finally left the hazy and gloomy mist mountains and came to the next leveling area. The gray low hills looked like they had been bitten by dogs and were covered with potholes of varying sizes. In the dark caves, rusty minecart tracks extend from the caves, crisscrossing the mine, passing in front of Yilin and Wang Tiandi. At a glance, the entire mine was empty, without anyone or any monsters. From the depths of the dark cave with no end visible, there was the faint sound of water dripping and other tinkling and crisp sounds, echoing heavily. In the deserted mine, this strange echo added an eerie and mysterious atmosphere to the leveling area out of thin air. Finally reached Aurora's abandoned crystal mine. Rustling, rustling. Yilin and Guzi have become more courageous as their levels have increased. They didn't look at the scenery at the door for too long. They randomly selected a mine and got into it. Crack, click, click. Behind a man and a dog, two translucent female spirits floated. Nai Hongzia was fine and had a calm expression. But Bai Xiaoi was no longer calm, her translucent spiritual body trembled slightly, her two hands tightly grasped the chain connected to the master, her delicate facial features were twisted together, and her face was slightly pale. "Hey, master, don't you think this atmosphere is a little weird?" "Tick-tock tock." Yilin lazily replied, "It's okay." But Bai Xiaoi mustered up her courage and seemed to want to express her objection. Yilin looked back at the two mother spirits and smiled, "Look at yourself, don't you think your existence is even weirder?" Bai Xiaoi was stunned for a moment, and she actually looked down at her snow-white coat, and then nodded blankly. "Having said that, it seems that it is really true. Isn't that right? As long as you are weirder than others, no weird atmosphere can scare you. Come on, dear. The bond value of the divine sword Bai Xiaoi is add 1. Huh. Can you increase the bond value by just saying something casually? As expected of me." Yilin nodded secretly. Nai Hongziu, who had been following behind him silently, his snow-white eyes suddenly condensed, his silver hair flying, reflecting the glimmer of light, and he said softly, "There is movement, be careful." "Not bad, I know I care about master." Nai Hongziu tilted his head with a cold expression, as if he was unhappy with Yilin's flattery. Yilin praised habitually. "You can't favor one over the other. The bond value of the divine sword Nai Hongziu is add 2. When Nai Hongziu was worried about Yilin and warned him, Yilin and Wang Tiandi took out their weapons at the same time, and their movements were uniform without any gaps. One person and one dog, in these short few days, they have developed a perfect tacit understanding. Click. With a soft sound, the ground cracked. In the dim cave, on the ground not far from Yilin, a round spherical object emerged from the soil. After the ball broke out of the ground, the body stretched out. It turned out to be a disgusting-looking insect, with many insect legs densely growing on its soft abdomen, and its hard back with many sharp-edged spikes, which looked like the color of crystal. Crystal Eater. LV48. It's only level 48, so it's okay. Yilin smiled kindly. The dog smiled wildly. There was no greeting between the man and the dog. The dog was in front and Yilin was in the back. They were perfectly positioned and went to kill the crystal-eating insect kid. Enter the battle. Faced with a monster that was far lower than her own, and with Emperor Wang Tian as her tank, Yilin chose to enter the turn-based battle mode and let the light of God fall from the top of the cave. The aperture surrounded the monster, Yilin, and the dog. In. Feint attack. 0. Seeing that Yilin was the first to attack, and the operation was as fierce as a tiger, and saw that the damage was only 0, Wang Tiandi rolled his eyes subconsciously. "You know shit." Yilin smiled slightly and ignored Wang Tiandi's eyes. Wang Tiandi uses the Rising Dragon Claw. -322. The crystal-eating insect was hit hard. The crystal-eating insect is very angry. Crystal-eating insects are calling for partners. Yilin was stunned. Emperor Wang Tian was even more stunned. I saw the ground cracking next to the crystal-eating insect, and another round insect came out. In the blink of an eye, Yilin and Wang Tiandi faced each other from one monster to two monsters. The names above the heads of the two monsters on the opposite side also changed to Crystal Eater A and Crystal Eater B. Damn it, can it still be like this? Yilin suddenly had a bad feeling. Following like a shadow. Without hesitation, Yilin kept silent for a while. Emperor Wang Tian rolled his eyes again, barely frothing at the mouth. It never expected that this shameful human being could survive 2 rounds in a row. I am a dog, but you are really a dog. Even Emperor Wang Tian noticed that something was wrong with the situation. The dog's expression was solemn, his 2 green dog eyes narrowed slightly, he crossed his waist and made a steady stance. Wang Tiandi uses 114 styles desolate bite. Ah! Wang Tiandi grinned, turned into an afterimage, and rushed towards crystal-eating insect A. -122. Wang Tiandi triggers combo judgment. Emperor Wang Tian uses 128 styles 9 injuries. -133. Crystal-eating insect A was stunned. Wang Tiandi triggers combo judgment. Emperor Wang Tian used the 127 styles 8 Jiang. -198. Crystal-eating insect A is dumbfounded. Wang Tiandi triggers the final move judgment. Wang Tiandi used foreign style build through. A knowing blow. -342. In just 2 rounds, Wang Tiandi was really as fierce as a tiger. A set of fighting claws struck in succession, and he actually dealt nearly 1,000 damage. Yilin was a little surprised when she witnessed Wang Tiandi's flexible dog, with its claws flying like flying, and its fists touching the flesh, under the crystal-eating insect's ass. This dog actually hid his strength before? By the way, you are a dog, how can you hide your strength so well? You are not the boss. What Yilin didn't expect was that among the God-given skills of the fighting claw, there was a combination attack routine, which was quite interesting. After 2 rounds of safe paddling in Yilin, after observing the situation, it was found that the crystal-eating insecta that appeared first had been beaten to red blood and was in danger. After finishing a set of combos, Wang Tiandi returned to his own place with a shy face and a stern expression, and even raised his middle paw at Yilin in demonstration. Convex. Crystal-eating insecta is even more angry. Crystal-eating insecta is calling for partners. Chrysanthemum B suddenly became inexplicably angry. Wait, why are you angry? Crystal-eating insect B is summoning partners. Another crystal-eating insect with 2 hairy ends came out. They are crystal worm C and crystal worm D. Yilin. Wang Guo. Wang Tiandi had just raised his middle paw, and instantly froze in mid-air, frightening the wolf's tail sound. This is troublesome. If this continues, the upper limit of summons on the opposite side is estimated to be 26. Because there are 26 letters in total. But if alpha, beta and the like are also included, then the summons of this monster are really endless. This monster's partner summoning mechanism is a bit like the Tauran family in the Endless Swamp. Yilin's expression gradually became serious and she whispered. Niang's sleeves were furrowed and her eyebrows were furrowed. Her silver hair danced with flowers and fluttered. She always has the illusion that no matter how many monsters are in front of her, she can kill them instantly with her hair. But it can't. So when Nai Hongxiu saw that Yilin was in crisis, he could only stand behind Yilin, connect the bond, and remind him loudly, Master, you must focus the fire. The bond value of the divine sword Nai Hongxiu is add 1. Yilin was a little surprised. What surprised him was not Nai Hongxiu's reminder. But it was an accident, she actually knew the game term collecting fire. Goza looked confused. He suddenly wanted to run away. But it looked back at Yilin. I may not be able to run faster than him. Dog. Hold on. Defend. 1 round. During the duration of its shadow, the monster almost regarded Yilin as transparent, and its attacks were all blurred on Guz's face. When it was Yilin's turn, Yilin knew that this summoning partner type of monster was very troublesome, so he did not hide his strength and directly used new skills. After image clone. The moment he fired the after image clone, Yilin suddenly had the illusion of being torn apart. Looking back, there were 2 more Yilin silently behind him. The 2 Yilin clones were slightly darker in color, but other than that, their equipment, expressions, and demeanor were exactly the same as their original bodies, so lifelike that Yilin was amazed. Bang 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 bang. Guz's face was expressionless, with tears in his eyes, and his fighting claws were crossed in front of him, silently assuming a defensive posture like a weakling. This time, the crystal-eating insects ABCD did not summon their friends. They raised their foreheads and bumped towards the aggrieved Wang Tiandi. The aggrieved Emperor Wang Tian was attacked. The aggrieved Emperor Wang Tian was traumatized. The aggrieved Emperor Wang Tian was severely injured. The frustrated Wang Tiandi is about to die. At this moment, Wang Tiandi looked like a downtrodden little boy, with an aggrieved, lonely, angry, and cold expression. On top of Guz's head, 4 moderate damage numbers popped up one after another. Perhaps because of Guz's defense, he resisted these 4 waves of attacks, heroic and tragic. Yilin silently gave Guz a thumbs up. It can be seen from the teammate panel that these 4 waves of attacks actually knocked out 1/3 of Wang Tiandi's health as thick as a blood cow, which was very scary. If this wave of attacks falls on Yilin. Yilin did not speak, and had no time to imagine the boring and unrealistic hypothesis of what if he was Emperor Wang Tian. He casually inserted 2 bloody daggers into his waist, sheathed them, and left his hands free. Under the turn system, Yilin has enough time to pose. The grip of annihilation. Behind him, 2 after-image clones, following Yilin's movements, both extended their hands at the same time. 5 fingers, 1 grip. Trigger the annihilation effect. The after-image clone triggers the annihilation effect at the same time. 3 times the amount of streamer lines were outlined around the crystal-eating insect ABCD. Not only was it a monster, but Yilin's skills completely enveloped the opponent's field. Yilin's skills target not just monsters, but space. What Yilin annihilated was a piece of space. Centered on the square outlined by the flowing lines, a small black dot appeared out of thin air. Immediately, everything in the square suddenly twisted, overlapped, compressed, and collapsed. The 4 monsters, with 3 times the joy, completely twisted the model into a twist in the space. After an instant, the light in front of Wang Tiandi and Guz's eyes flashed, and then completely dimmed. There is no damage number prompt, no combat information, and no loot left. Under annihilation, nothing remains and everything turns into nothingness. The turn-based aperture disappears silently. Yilin looked at her palms and remained silent. Guz also fell into a brief silence. This skill is so overbearing. Yilin suddenly remembered something, swiped his index finger down, and opened the player panel. After a while, the corners of Yilin's mouth twitched slightly, and she said to herself, I didn't expect that I would even lose experience points. It's not right. It doesn't make sense. His understanding is nearly 40%, and the knowing blow has not been triggered a few times. Because this grasp of annihilation is restricted to only be used in turn-based battles, Yilin has only unleashed the skill for the 2nd time since playing the game. Does this trigger the annihilation effect? This probability is very inconsistent with probability theory. Etc. Yilin once again pondered the skill description of Grasp of Annihilation. At the same time, Yilin opened props. At the front of the page, there were several initial props on his account that had been there since the start. The Lancer's blessing. Yilin frowned. They are actually used together. Is it such a coincidence? No. There is indeed something wrong with this game account. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 388. At the same time. Giant Beast Poseidon. The Land of Mermaids. Li Erpang, Ning Yu, and Xiao Chua were blowing bubbles in the water. They were a little nervous. After working on the Mermaid Country branch for more than a month, I finally raised the reputation value of Mermaid Country to respect. It's not easy. Li Erpang looked at the mermaid not far away, with its fish scales twisted and in great shape, and suddenly a bold idea came to his mind. Ning Yu let out a long sigh. It's not easy. After they were rescued by the mermaid, as the Brave's little friends, it was logical for them to stay in the Mermaid Country as guests. Originally, Ning Yu and Xiao Chua should feel happy. This can be said to be another village with bright flowers and dark willows, and ditches can be seen deep in the dense forest. But what they never expected was that when they wanted to meet the Mermaid Queen, as the mermaids called it, they were told that they were not qualified. Reason? Because the brave man is not here. If the hero is not here, will the hero's friends cease to be human? At that time, Li Erpang became angry and took out his hammer and shield. What was even more unexpected was that when the group of mermaid ladies, who seemed to be light and easy to push down, smiled and took out a harpoon that was bigger than Li Erpang, LV. Symbols of. Obviously it can't be done. In desperation, the trio of brave leg heroes could only follow the normal game process and frantically set up various side missions in the Mermaid Kingdom. For more than a month, Ning Yu, who has the highest level, finally rose to level 47. Although the upgrade speed was delayed, the reputation value of the Mermaid Kingdom finally accumulated and reached the respected level. Your Excellency Auranos, you have finally become qualified brave partners. The mermaid NPC at the palace gate finally showed a kind smile to the three of them. Can you stop being a brave partner and a brave partner? Can't you be a good player if you have hairy legs? In this game, the difference in treatment is too obvious. Why? Li Erpang was puzzled. Why is it that even if they are both players, that guy's reputation among NPCs is more useful than theirs even if he doesn't appear? This game must have been created by his family. Ning Yu and Xiao Chua were not surprised by this incident. He is the protagonist. Maybe the trial background setting is really an online game created by the home of protagonist Yilin. Although this inference is easily irrational. But every time I think of Yilin as the protagonist, all these unreasonable things seem to be explained. Li Erpang has been coveting this magnificent palace, which is decorated with various shells and corals. After all, any elite player can see that this is the key point of the Mermaid Kingdom's mission. Mermaid Kingdom is full of branch lines, but the mission here is the most important. The palace door slowly opened. Li Erpang took the lead and swam in, following the mermaid lady. Friends of the brave, please stand here. The mermaid lady smiled slightly and gestured to Li Erpang and the other three people to come to the circle in the center of the hall. There was nothing in the main hall except water. Wait a moment. Sitting in the corner of the hall, who is that person? Blacksmith. I saw blacksmith Ge Lang, who had been missing for a whole month, sitting in a corner of the empty hall, pouring lonely wine into his mouth as usual. By the way, how can you drink wine when you are completely submerged in water? The three people on the right and Ning felt very speechless at this weird setting. It's just a game, don't worry about the details. The corner of Li Erpang's mouth twitched violently, and he could only comfort himself in this way. Realizing that the three people's eyes were on blacksmith Ge Lang, the mermaid lady who led the way explained to the three of them, blacksmith Ge Lang is Her Majesty the Queen's best friend among humans. I also heard that blacksmith Ge Lang once had a relationship with Her Royal Highness the Queen. Live a secret friendship. Speaking of the second half of the sentence, the mermaid lady had a gossipy face and quietly revealed the shocking secret. Ningyu. Li Erpang. Xiao Chuer. After saying that, the mermaid lady seemed to realize that she had told a secret that she shouldn't tell. She stuck out her tongue with a cute and innocent expression, and then used the seemingly ordinary harpoon in her hand to tap lightly on the edge of the circle at the feet of the three of them. Immediately, layers of light suddenly appeared in the circle under the three people's feet, and a transparent platform magically emerged from the circle, slowly lifting the three people's bodies and lifting them upward at a constant speed. Li Erpang was shocked. Am I taking an elevator in the water? Ningyu smiled, there is no need to delve into the game settings. Xiao Chuer spread her palms, looked at them a few times, and agreed, obviously this is the game setting. My skin has been soaked in water for a whole month, and there is no wrinkle at all. This is obviously a normal thing. It's just a game setting, unless we're soaking in toner. The transparent aperture rose to the end and the speed slowed down. A small platform appeared in front of the three people. In the center of the platform, a beautiful mermaid woman with long wavy blue hair, exquisite facial features, and a luxurious temperament in her behavior was calmly watching the three people walking down the platform with her blue eyes. People. Your Excellency Auranos, welcome you, the brave man from another world, companions. The mermaid queen looked at the three of them with a graceful smile on her face. Li Erpang didn't even have time to show off his long-planned flattery. Ningyu didn't even have time to say a carefully designed opening that might instantly increase the NPC's favorability. The smile on the mermaid queen's face suddenly froze, and then she sighed quietly. Unfortunately, the prophesied hero is not here. Can you please stop opening your mouth and keep silent? You are the hero, you bastard. Can players still generalize between players? Don't engage in such discrimination. Believe it or not, I will complain to you as soon as the game comes out. Li Erpang was angry again. He felt as if he was being treated differently. But Li Erpang soon lost his anger. Mermaid Queen Saren. LV? In addition to the message popping up on the mermaid queen's head that stopped Li Erpang's anger, Queen Saren's oversized fish tail swayed slowly in the water. A voice like the sound of nature, with a low and slightly sad tone, narrated the worldview that Li Erpang and other three players were about to face, as vast as an epic scroll. Legend. In the real world, there was a legend that the mermaid song could make sailors lose their souls in the sea, fall to the bottom of the sea unknowingly, and become the mermaid's puppet forever. Although the voice of Mermaid Queen Saren is not that outrageous, not only Li Erpang, but also two apostles with strong determination, Lian Ninja and Xiao Chuer, felt a little restless the moment Saren opened her voice. As if being smoothed by a soft white hand, it calmed down in an instant. On the upper floor of the hall, only the natural sound of Mermaid Queen Saren was left. The three players did not dare to exhale, as if they were afraid of breaking the beautiful and sad atmosphere. Current main mission goal: find the source of the crisis of annihilation. Goal accomplished. Get EXP at 18,000. Get gold coins at 12,000 G. The main mission has been updated. Current main mission: the mission of the brave. Current mission goal: find more clues about the evil god. Task difficulty: A+. Task time limit: none. Task reward: EXP at 25,000. Mermaid Queen Saren barely paused and finished the story in one breath. When he finished speaking, the three companions of the brave in front of him still looked dumb, as if they had not yet come to their senses. Mermaid Queen Saren. Li Erpang, this story is really big. Ah no, it's so white, ah, it's so thrilling. Xiao Chuer glanced at Li Erpang faintly. It's really difficult for you to say a correct idiom. Ningyu casually opened the panel and took a look, pondered for a moment, chuckled, and said, this is the final boss. Xiao Chuer, it should be the final boss, the real deal. Li Erpang wiped the corners of his mouth and spit out a long series of bubbles. He finally put on a serious expression and said with a smile, "Finally I have touched the main line." After telling the background story of the world, Mermaid Queen Saren saw that the three brave companions did not show fear on their faces when facing such a terrifying darkness. She nodded secretly, and then took out a round crystal from behind her. Saren smiled slightly, and her smile was breathtaking. For a moment, it seemed that there were no words that could describe the charm of Saren's smile. Li Erpang murmured, "The painter of this character must add chicken legs." Sirian didn't hear clearly what Li Erpang said, and even if she heard it clearly, she might not be able to understand it. Dear fellow warriors, the evil god who intended to bring disaster to the world was sealed by the great Uranus 2000 years ago. But since Uranus has made a prophecy, it means that hidden in the sea of clouds the darkness in a certain corner has not completely disappeared. If the appearance of the brave is the will of the god Uranus, then this means that the incarnation of darkness that coexists with the brave, that is, the evil god, must still be somewhere in the world, ready to move, waiting. The time of resurrection. Li Erpang curled his lips. Although his brain was not very bright, he quickly discovered the loopholes in his worldview and said it straight out, if that god was really so awesome, he would have just killed the boss 2000 years ago and that would be it. Why give the boss a chance to resurrect? This is what is called cutting the grass without eradicating the root, and pregnant women queue up to give birth. Ningyu. Xiao Chuer. The crystal in Sirian's hand had just lit up, but it dimmed instantly after being interrupted by Li Erpang. Ningyu quickly smoothed things over. What the two fat brothers mean is, why is Uranus a god? But he didn't completely eliminate the evil god 2000 years ago. Xiao Chuer murmured in a low voice, isn't it just a game setting? Why are you two so serious? Saren pressed her sexy round lips tightly. Ningyu's question seems to be on point. After a moment of silence, Saren shook his head, all the truth has long been lost in history 2000 years ago. However, according to legend, although the evil god is the seventh giant beast, it is a compatriot of the god Uranos. Merciful Ula North couldn't bear to take the life of the evil god with his own hands, so he chose to seal the evil god instead of letting the evil god completely disappear from the world. The world is divided into day and night, and humans are divided into good and evil. When the god Uranus created this world, he already understood that black and white, light and evil, have existed forever. No matter which one completely disappears, it will lead to the imbalance of the world. Perhaps, that's the real reason. The giant monster Poseidon soars in the depths of the Sea of Clouds. There is no corner in the Sea of Clouds that can hide from Poseidon's eyes. This eye of Poseidon in my hand may be able to detect for you the hidden. The darkness in the world will guide you to the right path. His. Seeing that the clues to the main mission were right in front of them, the three of them did not dare to neglect them. They quickly moved their heads forward to see more clearly. On the eye of Poseidon, like lifelike projections, magnificent pictures flashed quickly. On the eye of Poseidon, each scene passed quickly like a slideshow. Snow falls all over the sky, and the kingdom is covered in silver. The desolate earth is cracked and ashes are flying. A modern city with tall buildings and neon lights. A bird-shaped giant beast that soars high in the sky above the Sea of Clouds. The once prosperous port city is now in ruins. On the Sea of Clouds, 14 airships passed by like dark clouds, with bright and gorgeous lights floating above them, and little angels playing the piano and singing. It's that bitch. When Li Erpang looked at the 14 black aerostats, he remembered the past grudges and cursed loudly. Hush, let's finish reading first. Ningyu signaled Li Erpang to calm down. One picture after another appeared in front of the three people. Finally, the screen turned, and 6 giant beasts shrunk out of the crystal ball. There were 6 dark dots on each of the 6 giant beasts. They flashed and flickered, just like the icons in the novice's mission guide. After doing all this, the Mermaid Queen showed a slightly depressed expression and quickly said to everyone, These 6 black spots are the 6 monsters created by the evil god himself. These 6 monsters have been lurking in secret for many years. The evil god is making various efforts to break the seal. Mermaid Queen Saren. All these explanations are easy to understand, simple and clear, and have both pictures and texts. Li Erpang and the others understood it instantly. In this way, the main mission of this world will be very clear. If you want to kill the final boss, you must first find a way to kill the 6 quasi-boss. This is the main line. Finally, Xiao Chuer was very emotional. Finally got the main quest. No more running errands. 6 quasi-bosses, huh? Li Erpang squinted his eyes and was about to make a deep expression. Suddenly, he opened his eyes hard and pointed at a certain part of the picture in the crystal, his fingers trembling slightly. This, then this little dot lights up and goes off. What's going on? Went out. When Mermaid Queen Saren heard this, she closed her eyes sadly, suddenly opened her eyes, and was stunned again. She quickly looked at the picture she saw in the eye of Poseidon. Never imagined. 6 black spots, one was really eliminated. Not long ago. This? Why did this light go out just like it said? This is not the scene of a big blind date car accident. This, what does it mean to be destroyed? Li Erpang consulted cautiously. Queen Saren's expression was first slightly startled, then stunned, and finally excited. There were several expressions on that delicate face. At the end, Queen Saren's singing-like voice trembled involuntarily. Destroying it means, there is a monster created by one of the evil gods. Died. Sea of Clouds. The 14 black aerostats of the Holy See reunited. Li Chang'e was sitting on the gorgeous chair, his expression as cold as frost. His Majesty the Pope. There is no trace of any living people near the crash of the opponent's aerostat. Back off. Li Chang'e slowly closed his eyes. Expression, neither happy nor sad. Suddenly, a sneer came from the transparent flask in Li Chang'e's arms. Why are you laughing? You don't need to care. I just think human emotions are very interesting. Li Chang'e dismissed everyone around him and took out the flask from his arms. He stared intently at the transparent flask, inside which there was a faint cloud of dark gas, which was gathering, dispersing and disappearing in an erratic way. Sometimes the black energy condenses into a human face, and sometimes it has no shape. There was silence for a long time. Li Chang'e suddenly laughed. You said such pretentious lines just to arouse my curiosity and achieve your goal. Flask. In your eyes, I'm just a stupid outsider, a stupid player. Flask. Rather than your lines, I'm more curious about knowing that this is a game world and knowing that we come from outside the game world. What is it for you? Flask. Li Chang'e brought his handsome face closer, squinted his eyes, and laughed happily. To be honest, I don't hate this kind of deceitful chatting method. After all, I have been used to it for so many years. An actor is such a strange animal. He can interpret joys and sorrows, and various states of life, but as he continues to act, he will gradually forget his original appearance. In that world, everyone is an actor. Flask. It seems to have no comment on Li Chang'e's self-confidence. Li Chang'e closed his eyes again. He held the clear flask tightly with both hands. Because of too much force, Li Chang'e's knuckles clenched the flask. They were stiff, white, and bloodless. If you look closely, you will see that your fingers are trembling slightly. Li Chang'e was silent for a while. When he broke the silence again, he used a sleep-like tone, as if he was chatting with the black air in the flask, or talking to himself. Once, in order to survive, I tried my best to act like a clown. Then, I succeeded. You know what, I was very successful. Everyone thought I was a clown. They were disdainful and thought I had nothing but acting cool. Of course, I was actually real. Handsome, no doubt about it. They didn't even bother to kill me. So I lived for a long, long, long time. Although it was only a few years, I lived longer than many people. I succeeded. Even I feel that I am a clown who only knows how to joke around, please others, and live an ignoble existence. Weak people can only survive in this way. But is this important? It's not important. Nothing is more important than living. Oh, by the way, you don't understand. After all, you are already dead. Flask. Li Changa opened his eyes. There was no emotion in those eyes that shone like stars. So, I decided that this time, I will go to the end, the end, the end. It is said that the person who goes to the end can be alive again. Many people say that you need a reason to live. But do you really need a reason to live? Li Changa shook his head and smiled even more. Do you need it? No need. Do you need it? No need. Do you need it? In the flask, a faint sigh came out again. Insignificant human beings. Li Changa smiled. Yes, this is human beings. But don't forget that your future is being held in the hands of what you call insignificant humans. They can flatten and round them as they please. Even if you scream your throat out, no little human being will come to save you, understand? The flask fell silent for a moment. However, I changed my mind. Oh. Tell me, how can I revive you? In the flask, the thin black air suddenly became rich, rolling violently in the sealed flask. It seems that this special effect is used to express the violent fluctuations of the black energy's inner mind from the side. But suddenly, Flask said quickly in an urgent voice, "Quick, put me away." Li Changa was slightly startled. But he didn't hesitate and immediately put the flask back into the props. A few minutes later, Flask reappears in Li Chang's singer. I know where they are. On the sea of clouds, nothing can escape its eyes. Who? GGG, Poseidon. Not long ago. There's something wrong with this account. Yilin was very sure. There are no pure coincidences in the world. If so, it's really a coincidence. Yilin believes that the probability of triggering the annihilation effect for his powerful innate skill Grasp of Annihilation is clearly stated as related to the luck value. But positive correlation is related, and negative correlation is also related. Yilin speculated that the second possibility was more likely. In other words, the lower the luck attribute, the easier it is to trigger the annihilation effect. And Lancer's blessing just happens to be able to designate a certain target and let the lucky points drop down. When this initial prop is used on other people, it may only cause no pain or itching. Can it be used on yourself? Although Yilin is not 100% sure, through observation and reasoning, he feels that there is more than 90% probability that this will happen. My natural skills and initial props are not randomly generated. They appear in the props for a special reason. Let's not talk about why the innate skills are so practical. The 5 initial props, including the Divine Sword, must have some reason for their existence. Even if some props seem useless at the moment, maybe they will in specific scenes and at specific times, it will play an unexpected role. Yilin's eyes quickly swept over the 5 initial props. These 5 initial props are not so much random, but more like a specific choice. But who chose this? Yilin lowered her head. Suddenly, a ridiculous idea flashed through his mind. Could it be me? In the dark cave, I don't know where it leads. The air is filled with the smell of moist soil. From the depths of the cave, there was also a faint fishy smell coming from nowhere. Emperor Wang Tian was sure. It does smell like shit. He is a dog, an upright, impermeable male dog, and no one knows the sense of smell better than him. The walls of the cave are covered with prism barbs. The gray prismatic barbs look dull outdoors. Ironically, in the dark cave, it is these dull-looking prisms that provide the only light. But this bit of field of vision is dispensable for dogs. Anyone who knows something about dogs knows that when dogs touch the world and recognize things around them, they rely more on their sense of smell and hearing, rather than relying solely on vision. In the darkness, there was no sound at all. Emperor Wang Tian knew that those monsters were not simple. The continuous summoning of companions and group fights with dogs simply showed no martial ethics, and Emperor Wang Tian despised it. Fortunately, he is not alone. Although the human adventurer was a bit shameless, Emperor Wang Tian was not alone. Woof! Wang Tiandi turned his head and was about to wag his tail and pat the brave man on his ass, becoming a qualified licking dog. Suddenly, Emperor Wang Tian's eyes widened. The green dog eyes were full of surprise. Woof woof woof. Woof woof. What a bastard, where are the people? Infinity Throne. Author, Bai Yi Xueshi. Chapter 389. Mermaid Country. Yilin casually opened the reputation panel and took a look. I did it casually. But this sight made Yilin dumbfounded. In the reputation panel, the reputation values of other forces have not changed at all. There is only one more item. Reputation of the Mermaid Kingdom Respect, 12/12,000. What's this feeling like when people are walking in a cave and melons are coming from the sky? Yilin was very sure that the last time he had nothing to do in the Great Engineer Tower to check out the reputation of the Grand Engineering College, there was no such item. What if there is an inexplicable addition of an NPC force that I have never met before, and the respect is also strangely increased in an instant? Did I accidentally put incense on the tomb of the ancestor of the human fish kingdom? Or is it that a certain monster on the roadside happens to be the enemy of the whole mermaid kingdom for life and death, and after being killed by him, it was secretly sensed by this NPC force? This is unreasonable. Etc. Yilin looked at it, her frown suddenly relaxed, and then she felt confused about whether to laugh or cry. Mermaid Country? Could it be that my surviving teammates are gaining reputation in this country with the title of brave companions, so they take some of the credit on me? If they knew about this, how damn would they feel at the moment? They really can't die. In the darkness, Yilin felt relieved. The reputation value will never be brushed to respect for no reason. The only possibility is that someone else cheated and some of the benefits fell on him. Just like the statue of the brave man and the dog in the moonlight jungle. Another example is the prophecy spread in the kingdom of two lions that the brave man and his dog will destroy the country. It seems that the whole world is inseparable from the legend of the brave man and the dog. Yilin still hasn't figured out why he is a brave man. Dogs are dogs, but others are brave friends. If this is an adventure, Yilin believes that at the end of the adventure, there must be the answer he is looking for. When the adventure in this world comes to an end, what Yilin can witness is not only the finale of this game world, but also his lost memories and the answers to all his doubts. As for now, Yilin holds two daggers. Behind him, countless corpses of crystal-eating insects fell. Crystal Eater has a special summoning partner mechanism, which is similar to the mechanism of Endless Swamp Tauren family. Under this special mechanism, if you want to clear this leveling area under normal circumstances, you must assemble a team with a reasonable professional mix and focus on destroying the crystal-eating insects in a short time without giving any trace to the crystal-eating insects. An opportunity to gather friends. Once Crystal Eater B is summoned, the number of friends that will come later will be endless and difficult to deal with. The turn system in the normal game mode actually limits Yilin's strength. Yilin's current direction of adding points is all in the direction of a set of combos. Under the turn system, Yilin can only use one skill per turn, which is not reasonable or scientific at all. As Adeng said, believe in science. For Yilin at this moment, cheating, no, reasonably exploring game loopholes is the most scientific science. Therefore, After careful consideration, Yilin could only temporarily separate from Wang Tiandi and embark on the road to defeat the boss alone. In the darkness, the surrounding mine walls emitted a hazy gray light. Yilin was not so miserable that she was scratching her head in an environment where she couldn't see her fingers. It seems that as you go deeper, the crystal-eating insects become more and more dense. Yilin used a trick combo to instantly kill a crystal-eating insect that turned into experience points before it could react, and then bent down to pick up the loot. It was a crystal block covered in thick acid. Crystal fragments indigestion. It is a material prop. As for the use of this material, Yilin didn't know. In the mine, there are many branching roads, winding endlessly, reaching deep into the depths. Apart from encountering swarms of crystal-eating insects, Yilin never encountered other existences similar to boss. Not even a big crystal worm. Ordinary crystal-eating insects no longer pose any threat to Yilin. Given Yilin's current level, as long as she doesn't enter a combat state and continues her combo, no matter how many crystal-eating insects there are, she can only be regarded as a younger brother within a younger brother. Yilin was so outrageous that he yawned while completing a skillful combo of moves. Like an arm wielder, 8 moves turned into one move, so natural that the crystal-eating insect cried out, hum. But Yilin's current level suppresses the level of crystal-eating insects, and the experience points gained from killing crystal-eating insects are greatly reduced. At the end of the fight, Yilin didn't bother to make a move and just walked over to save the crystal energy potion. Although most of the potions in Yilin's bag were borrowed and cost nothing. But these are all fruits of labor, right? It also cost Yilin a lot of effort. It was a shameful waste to save what he could. The depths of the cave are like a maze. The deeper you go, the more complicated the road becomes, and it is impossible to find the end. If this continues, there will be some trouble. Yilin shook another monster. In the darkness, the skill effect of following like a shadow was brought into full play. In addition, Yilin is good at sneaking. In this environment, it feels like returning to his own home, sneaking away from monsters without any pressure. There was a strange smell in the air, like a faint smell of feces, coming out from between the cracks in the rocks. The smell became more obvious the deeper you went. Originally, this smell should be difficult to detect, but in the airtight cave, the faint smell of feces gradually fermented and filled every branch of the mine. Yilin suddenly regretted it. It seemed too early to leave Wang Tiandi behind. Wang Tiandi's dog nose is extremely sensitive to smells, so he should be able to detect something strange. But Yilin thought about it again. If Wang Tiandi had not left Wang Tiandi to go deep alone, Wang Tiandi's 2 green dog eyes were like fireflies in the dark. They were so charming that it would be impossible for the monsters not to discover them. Impossible. Huh? What are these little bugs doing? Yilin wandered aimlessly through the maze-like branching roads. Unintentionally, Yilin discovered that the actions of these crystal-eating insects seemed to follow a certain pattern. After noticing the strange movements of the crystal-eating insects, Yilin stopped and leaned gently against the stone wall. She held her breath, as if her body was completely integrated into the darkness between the stone walls and was inseparable. Ka-ka-ka dash. Chi-chi-chi-chi. Deep in the mine, the concentration of crystal-eating insects is beyond imagination. For example, if Yilin uses turn-based combat to rush out now, when the aperture comes down, it is estimated that nearly 10 crystal-eating insects can be trapped in any one of them. Although the battle is turn-based, Yilin is still in a one-on-one situation. But the deeper you go, it turns out that Yilin is fighting a group of crystal-eating insects instead of one crystal-eating insect. This shows how terrifying the density of monsters is. The normal way of pushing pictures, coupled with the cheating mechanism of crystal-eating insect, simply cannot push it to this position. No wonder the crisis in the abandoned crystal mine gives the 5 great engineers in the Great Engineer Tower such a headache, and they have to wait for the players to solve it. Reasonable, and in line with the rules of the game. Before, Yilin was only focused on killing monsters and almost didn't pay much attention to the movements of crystal-eating insects. But when Yilin was too lazy to kill the monsters and began to observe the movement patterns of the crystal-eating insects, the crystal-eating insects that gradually increased in number and gathered into small groups began to reveal many strange clues. I saw round crystal-eating insects with a few tentacles protruding from the top of their heads. Several crystal-eating insects that could not tell the difference between male and female were teasing, and playing with each other with their tentacles. I don't know if they were mating or communicating. In short, it was confusing. Very happy. Yilin calmed down and continued to observe. A few minutes later, after completing the exchange, the crystal-eating insect began to take action. One of the crystal-eating insects suddenly burrowed into the stone wall and moved quickly in the hard soil. On the stone wall, as the crystal-eating insects moved in the soil, cracked textures appeared on the surface of the stone wall, as if the inside was being stretched open. Soon, the crystal-eating insects that were raging in the stone wall emerged from the surface of the stone wall again, opened their mouths and spat on the ground. Between the sharp teeth, a slightly shiny crystal, mixed with sticky secretions, spat on the ground. Yilin quietly moved closer. Crystal shards? So this is how crystal-eating insects collect crystals. Ha, after all, this used to be a crystal mine. It's not surprising that crystal shards can be dug out of the soil. But it vomits it out after eating it. What are you doing? Are you holding on? Yilin, who was hiding in the darkness, slowly raised a question mark. But he did not alert the enemy. He raised his head and drank a large bottle of crystal energy to replenish the crystal energy value, and then continued to hide in the dark. The first crystal-eating insect that dug into the soil spit out crystal shards mixed with saliva, and its tentacles trembled rapidly, as if it was expressing something. The rest of the crystal worms looked at me and I looked at you. Several other crystal worms followed the path of the first crystal worm and quickly burrowed into the soil. There was only one crystal-eating insect left on the spot. Without any hesitation, the lone crystal-eating insect rolled its long tongue on the ground and quickly swallowed the disgusting crystal shards into its belly. This scene is somewhat like the scene on TV when an anteater eats ants. While Yilin was wondering what these crystal-eating insects were doing, the stone walls trembled. The few crystal-eating insects that entered the stone wall got out of the stone wall one after another and spat on the ground. After leaving pieces of crystal shavings on the ground, they drilled back into the stone wall again, repeating the process over and over again. Gradually, the belly of the crystal worm that initially stayed in the cave corridor and swallowed the crystal shavings spit out by the other crystal worms became more and more rounded and rolled, until it burped with satisfaction. Are you full? The satiated crystal-eating insect turned around and left the place without any hesitation, moving deeper into the cave. Perhaps because it was too full, the crystal-eating insect moved much slower than the other crystal-eating insects. After Yilin paid close attention, it was not difficult to tell. Yilin turned into a shadow and followed closely behind the full crystal-eating insect. After eating, the crystal-eating insect twisted its round buttocks and moved in a snake-like position, looking slightly sexy. During the tracking process, Yilin discovered that in the mine, the dense crystal-eating insects were divided into countless teams with clear divisions of labor, repeating the entire process that Yilin had just witnessed. In the process of marching, more and more full crystal-eating insects, with their bellies as if they were pregnant for 10 months, moved firmly in a certain direction with difficulty. 1, 2, 3, 4, as Yilin went deeper, one by one, the eating crystal worms gathered in front of Yilin, first into a small group, and then into a large group. Unknowingly, the eating crystal worms, the full crystal-eating insects, formed a flowing river of insects in front of Yilin. Countless wriggling crystal-eating worms were meandering and moving in the narrow cave. If a hungry person saw this scene, he would probably be so disgusted that he would even vomit out his overnight meal. The first crystal-eating insect locates itself in the stone wall. After the location is successful, the other crystal-eating insects collect crystal shards in the stone wall, spit them out, and finally let one crystal-eating insect swallow them and transport them away. I never expected to see such a methodical assembly line collection operation for monsters in the game. In the shadows, Yilin couldn't help but laugh. So these fed crystal-eating insects are responsible for collecting the crystals and transporting them to a certain place. Bingo. It seems that. Found it? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 390. Yilin felt more and more that there was something wrong with her account. The combination of the two skills following like a shadow and shadow killing is a magical skill. None of them. Yilin, who turned into a shadow, was seamless and unstoppable. Mixed in the torrent of the insect river, Yilin moved forward quietly. The mighty group of crystal-eating worms with round bellies followed a certain established route and immersed themselves in the maze-like cave. They did not even notice that there was a ghost among them. Or perhaps, the crystal-eating insect's AI is not enough to support them in completing the high-end operation of terminating the transaction and uncovering the insider. In the maze-like cave, the mighty insect river became Yilin's guiding light in her wandering journey, the kind that didn't lead to detours. I have to say, perfect. Of course, Yilin didn't dare to be careless. He was now deep into the enemy's position. All around him were crystal-eating insects that had eaten their bellies. If something unexpected happens, Yilin is pulled into the turn-based circle. What he faces is a spectacular group fight, which is very exciting. I don't know how much time passed. In front of Yilin's eyes, the light became increasingly dim. The faint smell of shit that filled the air was getting stronger and stronger. It was unbearable for Yilin. It's a good online game, but it's so good, why do you want to quit it? If it were a female player who came here, wouldn't she be so smoked that she would vomit out her ant? When such a strange idea flashed through Yilin's mind, the mighty ocean of crystal-eating insects slowed down sharply. Yilin's eyes suddenly became enlightened. After emerging from a narrow exit, Yilin found that she had followed the Worm River army into a spacious oval-shaped cave. The surrounding light suddenly brightened, causing Yilin, who was in the shadow state, to subconsciously squint her eyes. But in fact, this light is not dazzling, but if you stay in the dark for too long, once there is relatively brighter light, humans can't help but adjust the aperture to adapt to the light in the environment faster. Yilin did not break out of the shadow state immediately. After he adapted to the surrounding light, Yilin looked at the new environment as quickly as possible. A strong fishy smell hit his nostrils. Above the head, the stars are shining brightly, and the source of that light comes from here. Yilin raised her head to look, but her pupils shrank in shock. Her scalp was numb as if it had been subjected to electrotherapy, and the numbness extended all the way to her tailbone. At the top of the cave, where are the twinkling stars? I saw countless crystal-eating insects, their rounded and thinned bellies exuding a bright light. The light of the crystals that have not yet been completely digested in the belly passes through the thin belly and reaches the body of the crystal-eating insect, forming the star-like scene. Densely packed crystal-eating worms were lying on the top and four walls of the cave, slowly squirming. At first glance, because the crystal-eating insects are almost squirming layer by layer, the crystal light on their belly alternates between on and off, blocking each other, and it looks like starlight shining. But behind this beautiful starry night sky is made up of these disgusting monsters. Trouble, if you are discovered in this situation, it will not be as simple as being beaten by a group. Once the turn-based aperture is covered, being beaten by a group is light. You will be buried by these bugs in minutes. In the aperture you probably can't stand so many monsters, right? Deep within the countless crystal-eating worms, pipes similar to blood vessels swell and deflate like breathing, branching out into countless tentacles, connected to the belly of each crystal-eating worm. These blood vessels are densely packed, as thick as a baby's arms, and are densely distributed throughout the spacious cave. Finally, they converge towards the deepest part of the cave. At the end of the countless blood vessels, a dark shadow was like a huge tumor, clinging to the stone wall in the deepest part of the cave, motionless. The light of those crystals alternated between on and off, following the blood vessels and moving towards the shadow of the tumor deep in the stone wall. After approaching the tumor, the crystal light in the vessel suddenly dimmed, and finally became completely dark. If I had to give an example to describe this breathtaking scenery, it would be like an infinite universe with dazzling stars, but the shadow of the tumor deep in the stone wall would be like a black hole that sucks up all the starlight, without any light shining through. Out. Yulin finally understood the whole process of the crystal light assembly line. The crystal-eating insects wandering in the cave are equivalent to miners. They work day and night, tirelessly devouring crystals in the mine, and the more advanced transportation crystal worms gather the collected crystal shavings and move them here. Finally, the mother body uses this method to completely absorb the crystals in the belly of the transport crystal worm. Positioning, excavation, transportation, coordination, absorption, this is a perfect assembly line for crystal absorption. If this was not an online game, Yulin would definitely marvel at the magic of the creator. Ah no. This game has a creator. According to the background setting of the game, the god who created this world is Uranus. Uranus created the world, and evil god created the monsters. After seeing everything clearly, Yulin could conclude with almost no need to think that the black hole adsorbed on the stone wall deep in the cave must be the source of crystal exhaustion. That is the goal of this SS-level important plot side mission. In other words, boss. 6 evil generals source devouring insect nest. LV? Based on Yulin's current level of LV50, this boss still displays. There is also a skull sign that means super dangerous level on the top of the head, indicating that the level of this boss is at least LV55 or above. 6 evil generals. Yulin looked at the red and black skeleton on the boss's head from a distance and fell into deep thought. At the end of the Kingdom of Two Lions, the Monster King showed the blood bar and the boss name, and the prefix also had the words 6 evil generals. It seems to be a boss from the same series. At the end of the Double Lion Kingdom dungeon, 6 evil generals puppet master was instantly killed by Homeros's extremely tempered move, so Yulin could not tell where the boss of the 6 evil generals series was. Which level of boss does it belong to in the game? The boss with the prefix of Matryoshka was killed instantly by Homelos with one sword. There are only 2 possibilities. 1. Homeros is too strong. 2. The 6 evil generals are weak. Yulin prefers the first possibility. 6 evil generals. Kill them or not? Yulin hesitated. Under normal circumstances, it would definitely be impossible to kill. But his account and gameplay are not normal. The turn system can't control him. Yulin has been playing the game so far, and has only been restrained by mechanical monsters that do not take debuffs such as poisoning and bleeding. The style and name of the boss in front of him clearly do not belong to the category of mechanical monsters. When Yulin hesitated, more satiated crystal-eating insects gathered here from all over the spacious cave. Through tubes, like blood vessels running nutrients, the crystals were transported to the 6 evils will be on the body of the source-devouring insect nest. Endless, endless. It seems that it is okay to withdraw at this time and leave quietly, as if you have never been here at all. But Yulin worked so hard to get here, and then left empty-handed, which was a pity when she thought about it. What a pity indeed. How much experience does this take? What if some magic outfit comes out? When the last boss of the Twin Lion Kingdom was instantly killed by Homeros, Yulin was already distressed by the huge experience points. If this experience value falls on the player's head, it is estimated that even level 20 is considered conservative. Yilin walked carefully in the cave. Time is limited. Can't hesitate for too long. Although Yilin seems to be safe now. But Yilin knew very well that his current so-called safety was based on the continuous consumption of crystal energy value and the maintenance of 2 innate skills. No matter how well stocked the medicines are, Yilin will be in more danger if he hesitates for a while. A few minutes later, Yilin suddenly smiled. As an elite assassin player, isn't it normal for you to touch a powerful boss when you encounter it? He made up his mind. Regardless of whether I can beat it or not, it always feels a bit pity to leave without touching it. After making up his mind, Yilin's shadow moved quickly in the cave and circled around the source-devouring insect nest. The closer she got to the boss, Yilin found that the insect nest brought psychological oppression to people, which was even more terrifying. The main reason is that this shape is so disgusting that it is difficult to accept it for a while. With the faint light, Yilin discovered that the source-devouring insect nest was actually hanging upside down from the top of the cave with the help of meat strips, instead of being attached to the stone wall through suction cups as Yilin initially thought. The surface of the insect nest is covered with fishy mucus and covered with lumps of different sizes. Those lumps are slowly moving, like breathing and heartbeat, and contain a certain rhythm. There are also cracks all around the knot. Those cracks were tightly closed, and I don't know if they were cut by other adventurers, or if they just grew up like this. Huh? It looks like there's something going on. Yilin walked around the boss for a while, and suddenly discovered that because the source-devouring insect nest was suspended and fixed by knotted flesh strips, there was a space behind the insect nest that was large enough for one person to move freely. Under normal turn-based conditions, this gap of about 1 meter is of little use. But for Yilin, who is not taking the usual path, this is enough space for one person to move, and the range of operations is large. Yilin flipped her palm and took out the question mark divine sword from the item. The question mark divine sword can be used as desired, and Yilin skillfully kneads it into his usual double daggers. The 2 daggers flew, shaking out blossoms of sword flowers. Yilin made a slow motion with her left hand and a fast motion with her right hand. The dagger in his left hand glowed with blood, and the dagger in his right hand glowed with green light. The 2 daggers were dyed with different brilliance. The 2 debuff throwing skills of Poisoned Dagger and Bleeding Dagger, as Yilin's wrist shook, 2 daggers appeared. The dagger was thrown out and struck hard on the body of the source-devouring insect nest. -5. -2. Yilin's skill was originally a test, so he didn't rush to output it immediately. He waited until the damage from the debuff jumped out. What if this boss's resistance is worse than that of mechanical monsters? Yilin has many preparations, and she will be timid when she needs to be timid, and she will never be greedy for the knife. When 1 red and 1 green damage number popped up from the top of the source-devouring insect nest, Yilin smiled kindly and was about to take it out. But suddenly, a small half of the tightly closed cracks in the source-devouring insect nest suddenly opened. Buh. 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 Round insect eggs, accompanied by thick juice, spurted out from the widened cracks. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 391. Yilin's eyes twitched. The round insect eggs rolled on the ground and cracked open. No surprise, the eggs are all filled with crystal-eating insects. There are more crystal worms in the cave. Moreover, it is brand new from the factory, and it is a cute new insect that has not even had time to take its first sip of milk. The premise is that crystal-eating insects grow up drinking milk. The cave is so densely packed with worm heads that it can be called a sea of worms. After Yilin twitched slightly at the corner of his eye, his movements did not pause, and he executed the long-planned combo skillfully. -168. A 3-digit damage popped up. Yilin was surprised. I didn't expect the damage to be in 3 digits. This is under the premise that the level is suppressed. If it weren't for level suppression, wouldn't it be possible to cut out the boss? Buh. 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 In a non-combat state, Yilin used poisonous assassination and tearing wounds with both hands, and at the same time received 2 kinds of debuff settlement damage. Only by going back and forth can such outrageous damage figures be revealed. Yilin doesn't know if this is a bug. Anyway, this knife has been stabbed out, it depends on whether to ban the account or not. Yilin couldn't care less. After causing heavy damage to the source-devouring insect nest, the cracks on the source-devouring insect nest opened faster. Insect eggs kept spewing out one after another, and the sound of boop, pop, pop was heard endlessly. It was like there was some kind of weapon, and it was pulled out and plugged in, and pulled out and plugged in, and pulled out against this monster-looking boss. Although this description seems a bit bad, the popping sound ringing in Yilin's ears at this time did give Yilin this illusion. Who designed this evil monster? Yilin is not greedy for the knife. As an elite player, Yilin knows very well that there is no cure for greedy knife cancer. After using a combo to cause damage to the boss, he calculated the consumption of crystal energy in his mind, quickly drank a large gulp of the bottle, and hid in the shadows again. Yilin moved too fast, and those brand new bugs were unable to detect Yilin's existence, so they made Yilin disappear again without a trace. A group of stupid crystal-eating insects could only roll on the floor stupidly without making any next move. Yilin lurked in the gap between the crystal-eating insects and the stone wall. This angle and position can avoid the sight of most crystal-eating insects, which is almost perfect. If this gap did not exist, Yilin might not be so decisive when she took action. I lingered for a while. Yilin was surprised to find that this source-devouring insect nest had no other special movements or reactions except for the crazy spraying of insect eggs outwards. Ah, this? The shadow on the wall shook a few times. Not so. So, just to be on the safe side, Yilin shook her little hand again, shook out the poison-quenching dagger and bleeding dagger respectively, and launched the second set of combo moves towards the source-eating insect nest. With this first experience, Yilin struck more decisively. Before the debuff damage could start to increase, Yilin's combo attack had already hit him. The smelly juice splashes. I don't know if it's blood. Boo boo boo. Boss, sprays faster. Continuously. The gush keeps coming. The ground was full of crawling insect eggs, clustered together. The abilities this boss has shown so far, not to mention other things, can kill all trypophobia patients instantly just by the sight. The scene was terrible. Even if Yilin is not a patient with trypophobia, seeing the crystal-eating insects above and below the ground in this cave can't help but feel his scalp numb, and his hands become even more numb, wanting to quickly resolve the battle. -177. Boom boom boom. Boop. Boom boom boom. The source-devouring insect nest spurted out a sense of rhythm. Together with the shishi calls of various types of crystal-eating insects, it ripples in the cave like a grand symphony. But Yilin had no time to listen carefully. Because he was even more stunned. This boss, seems, maybe, has no other abilities except bubbling. Hiding in this corner and stabbing, other crystal-eating insects seemed unable to detect Yilin's existence. I see. Yilin, looking at the uniquely shaped source-eating insect nest, suddenly felt that the fleshy lumps were pleasing to the eye. Unknowingly, a kind smile appeared on Yilin's face. After 1 hour. Congratulations. Successfully killed the 6 evil generals and the origin-eating insect nest. Due to killing the only monster by leapfrogging, the EXP reward will be greatly increased. Please be prepared to upgrade. Finally. The source-devouring insect hive walked very peacefully. Being poked until the very end, the boss has nothing special except for squirting. Everything was so ordinary. Everything is so logical. Who can't make a fool of himself? Yilin shook her sore arms, her expression neither happy nor sad. In fact, after a full hour of continuous operation without any mistakes, Yilin was now physically and mentally exhausted, and it was difficult to be happy for a while. This set of combos is far more complicated and more error-proof than frantically poking at the Moonlight Wolf King's weaknesses in the Moonlight Jungle. But compared to the little adventurer in the Moonlight Jungle, Yilin has twice as many skills, more combo bonuses, and is even more terrifying. So after an hour of frantic output, the source-eating insect nest finally fell to Yilin's double daggers in frustration. Assuming that the boss in this world are all played by real people, or the AI is advanced to a certain level, the first thing they do after being killed is probably not to hold the tombstone and cry, but to report it. How many bottles of medicine did Yilin drink in this hour? How many moves were made? He has lost count. Yilin could still count at the beginning, but halfway through the count, Yilin realized that this was an unimaginable number, so she gave up on counting the number of times she used her sword, and just numbly worked on her combos, counting the number of times the boss was killed. Reduced health points. The health of this 6 evil generals source devouring insect nest is a full 200,000. Calculating back again, assuming that each combo of Yilin's moves can reduce the boss's health by an average of 160 points, Yilin stabbed the source devouring insect nest a total of 1,250 times in 1 hour. A set of combos takes an average of 3 seconds. Terrifying hand speed. Yilin thought back and felt that her hand speed was incredible. He truly deserves to be an elite assassin. In fact, what Yilin should be more emotional about is that in these more than 1,200 sets of combos, the connection sequence of each skill must not be wrong. Otherwise, if the combo is interrupted, he will have already ascended to the sky, landed in a box, and turned into countless devouring crystals. Worm food. This is the most crucial point for Yilin to kill this boss. According to the normal turn-based routine, this one doesn't seem to have any special boss except for the mobs summoned by Bebop, which is actually extremely terrifying. Once the boss is damaged, mobs will be summoned in batches. And these mobs also have a summoning partner mechanism. Within 2 rounds, the aperture will be filled with bugs, with endless descendants. This mechanism of summoning mobs is even more exaggerated than copying and pasting. Without a team that has the ability to clear monsters in a wide range, complete equipment, and a reasonable professional mix, it is simply impossible to kill this boss with the ability to unlimited summons of friends in a turn-based system. Yilin shook her dizzy head. Until the boss died, Yilin still followed her usual thinking and stabbed the air. Yilin felt something was wrong when the dagger stabbed into the air, and then she came to her senses and read the system kill prompt. Jajaja. As the boss turned into black energy and disappeared, a low, hoarse sinister laugh echoed faintly in the cave. Half a minute later, Yilin twitched the corners of his mouth, and the delayed happy emotion finally came online. Etc. Yilin suddenly came back to her senses. What did the system prompt just now? Please be mentally prepared. How to prepare yourself mentally for upgrading. It's not like I haven't been promoted. What about after the prompt? The experience value is too large and the system is stuck. Just when Yilin was confused. Immediately after the kill prompt, the system prompt finally came belatedly. EXP add 532-4399. Get gold coins add 123221G. A ray of golden light fell from the sky, washing away the fatigue all over Yilin's body. Congratulations. Level increased to LV51. Get God-given points. It was upgraded without any surprises. This boss only has more than 500,000 experience points. Yilin was bathed in golden light and muttered, slightly dissatisfied. But it's not over yet. Another golden light. Congratulations. Level increased to LV52. Get God-given points. Base. 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 Congratulations. Level increased to LV53. Get God-given points. Congratulations. Level increased to LV54. Get God-given points. Yilin stayed in the shadows, but at this moment, he looked like a player who was condemned by the system for cheating. Golden lights struck Yilin on the forehead one after another as if they were free of charge. Yilin was stunned. How many levels has this been upgraded to? Isn't it just over 500,000 experience points? It takes nearly 130,000 experience points to upgrade from level 51 to level 52, a mere 500,000 experience points. How come this continuous upgrading process is like being struck by lightning? That's outrageous. As the golden light fell, Yilin noticed something was wrong with the atmosphere around him. The upgraded golden light made Yilin, who was in the shadows, look like a ditch in the dense forest in the vast sea of insects, so dazzling and eye-catching that it stung the eyes of all crystal-eating insects. With a swish, the entire cave was filled with crystal-eating insects, and there was a moment of deathly silence. Chi. After a moment of dead silence, countless crystal-eating insects finally reacted. With this glittering golden light, how blind or incomplete does the AI have to be to not be able to detect something wrong with the shadow twisting around on the stone wall? Seeing the densely packed crystal-eating bugs starting to move, Yilin felt his scalp numb again. He looked down and saw a dark thing at the death place of the source-eating bug nest. Yilin didn't bother to check what it was, and casually looked at it. After fishing, he ran away in a panic on the road he came from, facing the golden light in the sky. There are too many bugs. Rumble. Crystal mine. Outside the mine, Wang Tiandi lay on the trackboard and basking in the sun. Ah, those damn humans. Suddenly, Emperor Wang Tiandi, who was basking in the sun, raised his head. Start just now. Do not know why. The ground under its butt was shaking continuously from the depths of the ground. Move times, beat times, move times, beat times. Wang Tiandi squatted on the ground, and the rhythmic vibration made Wang Tiandi look weird and couldn't stop. Wow!